Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by 𝗬𝗵𝗲 on Wattpad. Now, let's start. Somewhere in the depths of space, a man lay bleeding, clutching a gaping wound, his body racked with violent coughs that expelled thick, dark blood. An eerie voice echoed around him. The man clutched a silver sphere in his remaining hand as if his life depended on it. "You have lost." The blooded man coughed again, more blood spewing from his lips. His arm had been severed, but through the pain, he managed a toothy grin, which only enraged the figure obscured in the shadows. Red eyes glowed menacingly from the darkness. "You will never," the man wheezed, each word a struggle. "Get the Omnitrix 𝗲𝗂𝐺. "I beg to differ," 𝗲𝗂𝐺 replied coldly. "You can barely speak. Your throat is scorched. You were a fine warrior, dragon of the..." He paused as the dying man chuckled, his vision dimming. 𝗲𝗂𝐺 crouched down, prying the sphere from the man's weakening grasp. The man managed to question the warlord's actions, his voice faint. "Why? Not just kill me." "Oh, I will," 𝗲𝗂𝐺 growled. "But before you die, I want to see the look on your face when you've realized you failed. The universe will fall, and there is not a being that dare stands in my way." With growing anticipation, 𝗲𝗂𝐺 opened the pod. His expression of excitement quickly turned to rage. What is this? Where is the Omnitrix?" As he pulled out the contents of the pod, the only thing inside was what appeared to be a photo. 𝗲𝗂𝐺 crushed it in his hand, and then he heard a small chuckle. He turned to the man, his glare filled with fury. "Oh, did I mix it with the laundry again? My bad." In a fit of rage, 𝗲𝗂𝐺 clenched his cybernetic arm and punched a hole right through the man's chest. As the man felt the searing pain, only a few thoughts remained in his mind. "I'm sorry, 𝐒𝐭. But it doesn't look like I'm coming home. I never got to tell Izuku how much I love him. I hope he knows that even without a quirk, he will be the greatest hero. Oh, and 𝐒𝐭, my dear 𝐒𝐭, I can't imagine my life without you. Please don't cry." He let out a small chuckle. "Oh, who am I kidding? You're going to drown our son in those tears. But that's one of the many reasons I love you so 𝗬𝗵𝗲. I hope you know I'm sorry I didn't tell you about this life. I didn't want to make you worry. But..." As 𝗲𝗂𝐺 pulled his fist from the man's chest and began to walk away, his arm dripping with blood, he heard the man speak. "𝗲𝗂𝐺. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. The Omnitrix is en route to my DNA signature, but the only remaining match is Izuku, and right now, he's 10 years old. Judging by the distance, the Omnitrix should reach the boy when he's around 15. I'm sorry this burden falls on you." To the being turned around to see the man holding a trigger in his hand. 𝗲𝗂𝐺 widened his eyes in shock and fear. "A fusion grenade. Not just any fusion grenade, this baby will destroy your entire ship and fleet. Why, this was your plan from the beginning, wasn't it? I know this won't kill you, but it will give the universe a good 6 years of peace before you get back up again. Until then, there will be a hero who will rise and end your reign." As he pressed the button, a deafening roar erupted, and a blinding flash consumed everything. The explosion surged outward with a force that ripped through the vacuum of space, creating a shockwave that shattered the silence of the cosmos. Flames erupted from the warships, illuminating the dark void with a hellish glow. Debris rained down like shooting stars, scattering remnants of the once mighty armada in every direction. Back on Earth, a woman and her 10-year-old son were home. 𝗃 Midoriya had been making her son some katsudon. It was the young boy's birthday, and even though he had no quirk and was constantly picked on by others, he never lost the smile on his face. The boy himself looked excited to spend his birthday, even though he didn't have many friends. Scratch that, he had no friends. He felt like a complete reject in the eyes of society, but his mother always made his birthdays feel special. "Mom, is it ready yet? I'm so hungry." "Hold your horses, young man. It's almost ready. Oh, and I heard you made a friend today. The 10-year-old Izuku Midoriya nodded rapidly. His name is Kevin Levin. He was being picked on, so he stepped in. I didn't exactly help, but he showed them who's boss. He beat them all up. Sounds like a rough one. When he found out I was quirkless, he didn't judge me. Instead, he told me I was insane for picking a fight with gang members without a quirk. That sounds. The woman had a blank expression before realizing what her boy had just said. Gang members. Honey, what? She began shaking him over and over with a panicked expression, and the boy just had swirls in his eyes. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock on the door. 𝐒𝐭 was confused as she thought to herself, who could be here at this late hour? Midoriya's eyes sparkled with excitement. Maybe it's Dad. He always comes to my birthday. 𝐒𝐭 looked at her son before smiling. Yeah, that man always finds a way. She approached the door and opened it to find a strange man with a clearly mutant-type quirk, surprisingly wearing a fishbowl on his head. 10, can I help you? Hello, Mrs. Midoriya. I'm 𝗧𝗵𝗲. I work with your husband back in the States. 10. Nice to meet you, Mr. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Is my husband with you? The man visibly flinched and clenched his fists, as the words he was about to say were difficult to articulate, especially since they weren't the full truth. 𝗏𝐭's world seemed to shatter around her. She had been told her husband had died in an explosion in a car accident back in the States. Her heart broke. With a shaky voice, she managed to speak. Thank you. Thank you. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Midoriya has left a large sum of money, enough to keep you in luxury for the next 30 years. I need to speak with my son, Mom. She flinched as her son walked toward her. Was that Dad? She turned to him, trying to keep a brave smile on her face. Honey, your father isn't coming home. Really? But he always comes on my birthday. Izuku, he won't be coming home. Izuku saw the distraught expression on his mother's face. The boy immediately wrapped his arms around her. Everything is going to be okay. Because I am here. She closed her arms around him and began to cry. It wasn't the usual tears, but those of deep sadness, as she wept into her son's shoulder. They embraced in a loving moment. 5 years later, Izuku Midoriya, now 15 years old, had been cleaning up 𝗓𝗏𝗄 beach as part of his training for One for All. After 6 grueling hours of work, he was drenched in sweat, his muscles burning from exertion. All Might watched the boy's progress, impressed by his perseverance, and decided to reward him with a treat for his hard work. He left Izuku to his own devices. I've got to push myself even more. With a mighty yell, Izuku grabbed an old tire, dragging it through the sand. The tire, clearly from a dump truck, was heavy and reeked of age and neglect. Each pull left deep imprints in the sand, and sweat dripped down his forehead as he exerted every ounce of strength. As he pushed the tire, Midoriya began to reminisce about his past, meeting All Might and being offered One for All. The memories fueled his determination, driving him to push harder against the weight of the tire. 3 months ago. The school day finally came to an end. Izuku Midoriya scrolled through his phone, reading up on the incident from the morning. As he reached for his hero notebook, it was suddenly swiped away. Katsuki Bakugo, an old friend turned bully, held the notebook up. We ain't done here, Deku. Bakugo's cronies laughed and jeered upon seeing the title of the notebook. See, come on. Give it back. Midoriya pleaded with the explosive boy. 3 Bakugo sneered, clapping his hands together and destroying the notebook with an explosion. Izuku yelped in surprise as Bakugo, without a care, threw the remnants out of the window. The best heroes out there showed signs of greatness even as students. I'm a perfectionist. I'll be the first and only hero from this crappy public middle school. The first to win the honor of becoming a UA student. Bakugo sneered, grabbing Izuku's shoulder. Smoke rose from his grip. In other words, don't apply to UA. Midoriya was shaking, sweat dripping from his face. He couldn't even look Bakugo in the eye for fear of what his tormentor would do. Even so, he tried to say something, but words failed him as a lump formed in his throat. Suddenly, A firm hand grabbed his shoulder and flung him away while pushing the blonde aside. The F. Bakugu's two cronies backed away, their previous mocking of the quirkless boy replaced by fear as a new presence appeared, glaring at them. Sheesh, I thought heroes were supposed to protect people, not belittle everything about them, a mocking voice sneered back at the blonde. Bakugu immediately felt his mood sour as he glared at the boy. Levin, he spat, venom dripping from his tone. One of the cronies, known as 𝐒𝐽𝐫, quivered behind Bakugu. What are you doing here? Him. I don't know, maybe to stop three idiots from picking on my friend. Bakugu could only scoff. You know, if you stopped protecting this nerd, you'd probably have it easier at this school. If my memory serves me correctly, you have so much on your permanent record that you're never getting into a hero school. Bakugu and his cronies were about to leave when Bakugu paused, a smug look on his face. You know, you might actually be useful if you had a quirk. Why don't you take a swan dive off the building and pray for a quirk in your next life? Kevin's eyes widened. He absorbed the ground beneath him. Bakugu only grinned as explosions crackled around his palm. Before Kevin could react, he felt someone grab his forearm. He turned to see Izuku, head down, shaking from side to side. Kevin looked at him. Bakugu could only scoff before he left with his two friends. Kevin could only glare as Midoriya could only look down in shame ever since they got into thanks to Bakugu basically shouting to the whole school of his quirkless nature. The school made it the absolute mission to make the boy's life a living hell. At least that would have happened. One, if it weren't for Kevin Levin basically threatening the school, that if anyone touches him, they won't be able to eat without a straw for a month. Most didn't take this threat seriously, and that is where they made the mistake. One day Midori was heading home when he was ganged up on by 5 upperclassmen who were eager to get the stress off and attacked the boy using their quirks, but when Kevin saw what they were doing well, he kept his promise. Due to this incident, those with common sense stayed clear away from both of them. However, the teachers and staff only heard one side of the incident. Instead of the boy protecting his friend from the bullies, he was a delinquent who beat them for nothing. Midoriya tried everything to tell them what happened, but they didn't want to listen to the quirkless kid. Kevin was enraged even though he was given a warning after warning anyone who would even attempt to bully his friend. He dealt with them. However, the students were puzzled as to why he was protecting the quirkless loser even though he got nothing but a record for violence. Midoriya asked why would he go so far. His answer. Because we're friends. Why, idiot? Anyone wants to pick a fight with you, they'll have to pick a fight with me. I got your back, and you got mine. Midoriya didn't like the fact his friend was fighting people for him, so instead of being his weak quirkless friend that he had to protect, he fought side by side, well, more like he tried fighting but immediately got pummeled. But Kevin found it hilarious that even though he was quirkless and no power to speak of, he would fight alongside him even though it meant he would have a record. Bakugu's voice brought them back to reality. Both of you losers won't get into UA with those records. Don't even apply. He was interrupted by Kevin, who let out a long yawn. Sheesh, I can't take this. Izuku, let's leave Blasty here with his sorry excuse for friends. Oh okay, Midoriya replied, grabbing his bag as they walked away, much to Bakugu's annoyance. Thanks again for, dealing with Kaken. Why do you still call that but Kaken? Kevin asked, glancing at him. It's honestly annoying watching you kiss that asshat's butt. But Kaken is strong and amazing. Seriously. No offense, Izuku, but admiring a guy like that doesn't show kindness. It just shows how you won't stand up for yourself. Kevin said bluntly, a light glare directed at his friend. You're not being pure-hearted, you're just letting him walk all over you. Izuku looked down, feeling the familiar weight of their conversation. They had gone over this time and time again, and Kevin never hesitated to challenge him when he praised Bakugu. I get it, but he's just complicated. I know he can be a JRK, but deep down. Kevin scoffed. You think there's some hidden gem in that explosive ego of his? Look, I know you want to see the good in people, but sometimes you just have to face reality. He's not worth your admiration. He's not worth your respect. You owe him nothing. Midoriya remained silent as they continued walking, wrestling with Kevin's words. Anyway, I've got to work on my car. I'll see you later. Wait, You're still working on that car. I thought you found it in a junkyard. I did, but when I'm done with it, it'll go from a junk pile to a horsepower demon on wheels. Don't you need a license for that? Hey, I already have a record. What's one more? As Kevin left, Izuku waved goodbye before turning back to retrieve his hero journal. He didn't want Kevin to know what Kaken had done to his notebook, knowing it would only provoke a fight between them. So, he went back to get it. Later, he was attacked by a sludge villain and saved by All Might, his idol hero, only to grab onto him and fly through the air before landing on a rough. All Might, looking at the boy, could only stop for a moment before eyeing the boy carefully. He looks like can be a hero even though I don't have a quirk. All Might's throats were cut off by the boy's question. Unfortunately, All Might couldn't give him the answer he so desperately wanted to hear. Everyone told him he could never be a hero. Even his longtime friend Kevin thought his chances were zero. That's what friend did, gave a truthful answer even if it might hurt you. After discovering his true form, All Might gave him the boy an answer. Which was no. I should be more realistic. Now he stood gripping his backpack alone on the rooftop, his dreams crushed by the #1 hero. Later, All Might was proven wrong as this seemingly quirkless boy ran into a dangerous situation to save the life of a classmate. He had no plan, and he had no powers yet when pro-heroes froze at the scene, including All Might himself. He's the only who acted. With the boy's bravery, his ingenuity, the pro-hero couldn't help but be reminded of certain fire-breathing friend. After he had saved the boy and defeated the villain, he met up with the boy. But before he could offer him his quirk, he just had to know the boy's name. Young man, now tell me your name. Izuku Midoriya. All Might widened in shock. He then began to inspect the boy more closely before bursting into roaring laughter. Midoriya. Here. Haven't heard that name in a while. Hisoshi, you kept spouting that your son would be the greatest hero. I thought you were being a parent, but now I see him and met him. I can't help but agree, old friend. Wanna. All Might. I deem you worthy of my power. My quirk is yours to inherit. Flashback over. All Might had just finished purchasing 2 meat buns, a smile of satisfaction crossing his face. But his contentment quickly dissolved when a bright light streaked across the sky, like a shooting star, but with an intensity that sent chills down his spine. The light grew larger, brighter, and began descending rapidly. His heart sank. It's heading for Dagobah Beach. With the realization, All Might dropped his buns, transforming instantly into his muscle form. Young Midoriya, he shouted, sprinting at full speed towards the beach, knowing disaster was imminent. At the trash-littered beach, Izuku Midoriya stood frozen, staring up as something plummeted toward the earth at blinding speed. Foom! Without warning, the sky erupted. The object tore through the atmosphere, shattering the clouds with a deafening boom. Midoriya widened his eyes in horror as the shockwave hit, sending trash and sand flying in all directions. The blast was so powerful it knocked him to the ground, scattering debris around the beach like an explosion at a landfill. The dust cloud that followed was thick, choking, and it enveloped everything. Midoriya coughed, stumbling to his feet, unable to see anything through the suffocating sand cloud. What was that? As the dust began to settle, Izuku noticed something glowing in the distance. His eyes locked onto a bright, pulsating orange sphere in the new crater within the sand. Midoriya's curiosity pulled him closer. The heat radiating from the sphere was palpable, distorting the air around it like a furnace. When he got near, he saw that it wasn't just a random object, it was a metallic pod of some kind. The pod hissed, and with a mechanical whir, it began to retract and open. As it did, a vivid green glow bathed the trash-filled beach. Inside the pod was a strange device, unlike anything Midoriya had ever seen. A watch, he muttered. But this wasn't just any ordinary watch. Its design was sleek and futuristic, green and black with white accents, and the central dial glowed with the same bright green hue that lit up the pod. It seemed far more advanced than anything on Earth. 13 The bands were thick and sturdy, the faceplate an hourglass-like symbol. What's a watch doing in outer space? Midoriya whispered, his heart racing. The heat from the impact still lingered in the air, but Midoriya's curiosity overrode any sense of danger. Slowly, he extended his hand toward the device, the eerie green light reflecting in his wide, emerald eyes. Suddenly, the green glow intensified, and to his shock, the strange device leaped out of its pod and latched itself onto his wrist. What the? Midoriya yelped, stumbling backward in a panic. He desperately tried to shake it off, pulling and prying at the device, but it wouldn't budge. Get off! Get off! He shouted, his heart racing with panic. Realizing the watch wasn't going to come off anytime soon, Midoriya calmed himself enough to start fiddling with the faceplate. His fingers grazed over the smooth surface until, unexpectedly, he found what seemed to be an activation button. The faceplate popped up with a soft click, the hourglass symbol vanishing as it was replaced by a bright green light, almost blinding him. Midoriya shielded his eyes with his free hand, squinting against the sudden brightness. After a few moments, the light dimmed, and he lowered his hand. His breath caught in his throat. Hovering above the faceplate, made of what looked like green holographic light, was the image of a jellyfish-like creature. One jellyfish. Weird-looking jellyfish, but definitely a jellyfish. Izuku's curiosity peaked as he turned the dial, revealing another figure. This one wasn't a jellyfish. Instead, had been what seemed to be a man on fire. This is all cool but doesn't exactly help me in getting you off. Maybe if I press this. As he pressed down the dial, he widened as the boy was engulfed in a green light. It was all sudden as DNA was being altered. The boy felt no pain as his body seemingly transformed. He opened his eyes, and what stood where the boy was a plasma-based life form, engulfed in green flames. Ah! I'm on fire. The boy immediately went into a panic, running around the beach as the boy, seeing the ocean immediately dove into hopefully the water that would extinguish his flames. The boy immediately went into a panic, running around the beach as the boy, seeing the ocean immediately dove into hopefully the water that would extinguish his flames. The small waves washed over him with a hiss of steam, putting out the flames. Izuku sighed in relief, only for the flames to burst, coming back to life, causing more steam to rise. Finally realizing that his body didn't feel like it was on fire. Calming down and taking a deep breath. Hey! I'm on fire, but I'm okay. The boy got out of the water as the waves caused him some mild pain. He looked himself over as if instincts took over. The boy created a fireball in his palm, and he widened before clenching his fist. I have a quirk. And a fire one at that. What else can I do? A long-forgotten memory surged to the surface, the countless times he had desperately tried to breathe fire like his father but had failed miserably. He had stomped his foot to the ground, inhaled deeply, and unleashed a massive wave of flames that melted the trash before him. The flames burned a brilliant green, just like his father's. He closed his mouth, fighting back tears of joy. Dad! I'm just like you. One boom. With a thunderous crash, All Might landed in a superhero pose, a scowl etched across his face as he glared at the alien before him. A Prionite! What have you done with young Midoriya? Midoriya's heart raced with terror as All Might glared at him like a villain. He had never seen this side of the pro-hero, and it sent chills down his spine. Wait. All Might, it's me. The pro-hero showed no signs of backing down as he cracked his knuckles and began advancing toward the alien. In a moment of desperation, Midoriya realized he had to act fast. One for all. All Might halted, his expression shifting to one of curiosity as he looked at the fiery alien. You planned on giving me one for all. I know about your injury. So please, for the love of God, don't pummel me. All Might's eyes widened in disbelief. Young Midoriya, he asked, waiting for some form of clarification. The fiery alien nodded, a sense of urgency building within him as he noticed the symbol emblazoned on his chest. So the rumors are true. The Omnitrix is real. This has become more complicated than I thought. That is quite the story, young man, All Might said, sitting beside Midoriya, who was still in his Pyronite form. The two sat around a campfire, the dark night illuminated by the orange flames of the fire and the green flames flickering from Midoriya's body as he retold how the mysterious device had latched onto him. It's getting late. Mom must be so worried about me. Well, we can't exactly have you show up looking like this. Your mother will have questions that we don't have answers for. Yeah, I guess it would be pretty bad if I showed up looking like a monster in front of her. You're not a monster, you're an alien, All Might corrected, though his tone was gentle. Midoriya looked confused. I mean, just look at yourself. What else could you be? Anyway, we should focus on figuring out how to turn you back. Midoriya immediately panicked, trying to think of a way but coming up empty. Well, young Midoriya, you've studied a lot about quirks. How do transformation types usually revert back? Midoriya put a finger to his chin, thinking through his vast knowledge of quirks. There are generally two ways. 1. There's a time limit. It can vary from 10 minutes to several hours, depending on a person's stamina and physical condition. All Might nodded thoughtfully. Your recent training has significantly increased your stamina. Even after training for more than 3 hours today, you don't seem fatigued. Midoriya continued, the other way is through mastery of the quirk. But usually, people revert back if they're knocked out or completely exhausted. It's been over an hour since you transformed, so I believe it's the latter, All Might reasoned. At this rate, you could stay like this for several more hours. Hours? Midoriya exclaimed, panic rising in his voice. What are we gonna do? I have an idea. But it might hurt. A lot. With a puff of smoke, All Might transformed into his hero form. Midoriya quickly realized his intentions as the pro-hero cracked his knuckles. Midoriya gulped nervously. This is gonna hurt, isn't it? With a powerful smash, All Might delivered a right hook, sending the boy flying. As Izuku landed, a green flash illuminated the area. All Might looked over to see the boy knocked out, now back in his human form. He'll be out for about an hour. I should inform Nezu. If the Omnitrix is here, then he won't be far behind. All Might pulled out his phone and dialed a number. After a few rings, someone answered. Toshinori. To what do I owe this call? Nezu, we may have a problem. I recently met a quirkless boy with an incredible amount of heroic potential. I see. You're planning to give this young man. The boy's name is Izuku Midoriya, All Might interrupted. On the other end, Nezu froze, his eyes widening as if he'd seen a ghost. His cup of tea slipped from his grasp. I see. If he's anything like him, then I believe you've made the right choice. I do miss that man, his constant muttering, Nezu mused, momentarily lost in thought. But he quickly snapped back to the present. Well, something extraordinary happened today. Do you remember Hisoshi's last mission? I wasn't given all the details since I'm not exactly a plumber. Yes, I remember, Nezu replied. Hisoshi was tasked with protecting a piece of DNA technology from 𝗲𝗏𝗏's clutches. The battle raged across the galaxy, and after 𝗲𝗏𝗏 disappeared, rumors spread that the DNA technology was, in fact, the Omnitrix, the most powerful device in the universe. But no one has ever confirmed its existence. 5. Well, the rumors are true. The Omnitrix does exist, and it's attached to one Izuku Midoriya. Nezu closed his eyes, processing the information. That's troubling. Please bring him to you tomorrow. Early morning, if you can. Understood. All Might hung up, only to hear a groan from Izuku. All Might. Maybe I hit him a little too hard, he thought to himself as he walked over to the boy and picked him up and proceeded to the young hero's home as Midoriya snoozed away on All Might's back. Next day the birds were out, and people were waking up to the start of their day. Izuku Midoriya also woke up, starting what could only be described as a strange day. As he stared at the strange device latched onto his wrist, the events of the previous night replayed in his mind. Guess it wasn't a dream, Midoriya thought with curiosity, staring at the black and green device. He glanced around, making sure no one was watching him. Pressing the 2 rings on the Omnitrix, it popped open, revealing a holographic figure of the flaming alien form from last night. Cool. Izuku turned the dial and was surprised to see another alien form. This one had 4 arms and seemed to have immense strength. He kept turning the dial, discovering a silhouette of a jellyfish and continuing through the rest, finding a total of 10 different forms within the watch. There's a total of 10 forms, and based on yesterday, they probably each have unique abilities, he muttered to himself. Midoriya got out of bed, grabbed his phone, and found a message from All Might. Young Midoriya, please come to you at your earliest convenience. We need to discuss the matter of the strange device. Make sure you arrive by 10:30. Checking the time, Midoriya's eyes widened. It was already 9:50. CRP, he shouted, rushing to take a quick shower. After putting on clothes and grabbing his red shoes, he bolted out the door. Izuku, where are you going? You haven't had breakfast yet. His mother called. Sorry, Mom. I have to meet with someone. He shouted back, already sprinting down the street. As he ran, he checked the time again and realized he was going to be late. CRP. What am I going to do? I don't want to let All Might down. Just then, like a miracle, Kevin Levin, his best friend, pulled up in a green muscle car. Midoriya stopped in awe as Kevin grinned brightly. Whoa! You actually fixed it. You rebuilt it from the ground up. With a smug grin, Kevin nodded. Yeah, I'm awesome. It took me 2 years, but all the hard work paid off. Even though I might not get into any high school, I've got a friend who's willing to give me a chance. Once I show them this high-powered baby, things will look up for me. Midoriya admired the car, feeling proud of Kevin's accomplishment. It looks incredible. So, can I get a ride? Yeah, wait. CRP. Do you mind dropping me off at UA? Kevin raised an eyebrow. UA? Why? Please. Midoriya pleaded, clasping his hands together. Kevin shrugged, thinking it was just one of Midoriya's odd requests. All right, hop in. As they sped down the road, Midoriya held on tightly, looking panicked. You know how to drive, right? 𝗧𝗵𝗲, Kevin smirked confidently. Do I know how to drive? He replied rhetorically, pushing the car to full speed as if to test it out. Kevin seemed to be having the time of his life, but Midoriya looked like he was about to pass out. A few minutes later, Midoriya was foaming at the mouth, while Kevin burst into laughter. I thought I was going to die, Midoriya groaned. Oh, don't be a baby. A little thrill won't hurt 𝐴. Now get out, I've got stuff to do. Kevin said, still grinning. Midoriya waved at his friend as he exited the car. Just then, a booming voice caught his attention. Young Midoriya, you arrived on time, just as I asked. Here, take this. All Might called out, standing nearby with a serious look. All Might handed Izuku a visitor pass, his eyes narrowing slightly as he glanced at Levin. That was your friend Levin, wasn't it, young Midoriya? Izuku nodded, his eyes fixed on the sleek green muscle car. Yeah, he has an amazing quirk, osmosis. But he doesn't want to be a hero. All Might's gaze lingered on Levin, a hint of suspicion in his eyes. He cleared his throat before turning back to Izuku. Osmosis allows him to absorb anything. That's quite a powerful ability. Izuku's confusion deepened. But what does it mean? All Might's expression turned serious, his voice low. We'll discuss that later. For now, let's focus on your visit. As they walked towards the UA building, All Might cast Levin a sidelong glance, his eyes clouded with concern. Izuku, oblivious to the tension, marveled at the campus. Incredible. All Might smiled, his demeanor lightening. Hopefully, you'll become a student here soon. For now, let's head to the principal's office. We can't waste time. A few hours later, Midoriya was subjected to hours of testing as the heroes scanned the watch and its connection to him. Recovery Girl had given him a full checkup, taking BLD samples and other fluids. Midoriya was feeling a mix of emotions. On one hand, he was ecstatic to meet 2 pro heroes, Power Loader and Recovery Girl, and even got their autographs. On the other hand, the tests were far from comfortable. As Recovery Girl reviewed her notes and the data gathered, both she and Power Loader stood beside Midoriya. The device has completely fused with you, Recovery Girl said, her tone serious. Midoriya looked confused and a bit worried. Fused? You mean? Power Loader chimed in. While it looks like a watch, it's not just attached to your skin. It's latched onto your bones, your flesh, and has merged with your DNA. Midoriya blinked in shock. So far, The device seems permanently attached to you, Recovery Girl added. But it's also increased your healing abilities. Your body has changed, too. Your stamina and all your physical capabilities have improved. All Might, who had been quietly observing, asked, "How much would you say the boy has changed?" He'll still need to train physically, Recovery Girl said, but in about 4 months, he could reach what we consider peak human condition, or at least peak human condition for someone his age. For 4 months. All Might thought to himself, surprised. With that, I could give him one for all much sooner than I originally planned. Now, if all the tests are complete, I'd like to test the boy in his alien forms, if you don't mind. A new voice spoke from the doorway. Izuku turned and saw a dog, bear, and mouse hybrid figure that he immediately recognized. Principal Nezu. And you must be Izuku Midoriya. It's an honor to meet you, Nezu said with a smile. Toshinori, I'd like to speak with you in private. All Might nodded as Nezu led him out. Before leaving, the principal turned back to Midoriya. Oh, and please meet us in the training room afterward. We'll be testing the Omnitrix. Midoriya blinked in confusion. Omnitrix? Nezu paused for a second, realizing his slip-up, but then smiled. Well, that nifty watch of yours should have a name, don't you think? Midoriya nodded, not questioning one of the smartest beings on the planet. Alright. Nezu and All Might headed to the principal's office. When All Might entered, he noticed a man sitting inside, looking as though he desperately needed coffee. The man had long black hair and wore a scarf. All Might recognized him instantly. Aizawa, All Might said. Oh, it's you, Aizawa replied in a bored tone. I thought this was a meeting for actual plumbers. All Might immediately became defensive. Hey, I may not be an official plumber, but I've helped out in the past. And, by the way, I thought all the plumbers retired 5 years ago. Aizawa shrugged. Yeah, they did. When Hisoshi took down 𝗲𝗏𝗥, the alien threats dried up. But I've been hearing rumors that 𝗲𝗏𝗥 is back. For Hisoshi's family's sake, I hope it's not true. Nezu, seated at his desk, poured himself a cup of tea. That's exactly why we're here. 13 and the others couldn't make it, Phil's off doing his own thing. He took a sip before continuing, I've heard the same rumors about 𝗲𝗏𝗥's return. What makes things worse is that the Omnitrix is on Earth. Aizawa, who usually kept a neutral expression, looked shocked for a brief moment. It's on Earth. We need to track it down. If it falls into the wrong hands, Nezu interrupted. All Might has already located it. The Omnitrix is attached to one Izuku Midoriya. Aizawa's mouth went dry. Midoriya? His son? Nezu nodded. Aizawa quickly responded, we need to put the kid under protection, we won't be doing anything for now. I want to test the boy first. We'll observe his actions and then plan how to proceed, Nezu stated calmly. The pros nodded in agreement. All Might spoke up, speaking of which, should we tell the boy about all of this? The plumbers, the aliens, everything his father did. No, came the immediate response from both Nezu and Aizawa. All Might looked surprised. What? Why not? Nezu fixed him with a serious look. You want to tell the boy that his father didn't die in a car accident, but was murdered. That the same being who killed his father is coming to Earth for the device on his wrist. And that if he doesn't defeat this being, the entire world could be destroyed. You want to put that kind of responsibility on him. All Might remained silent, processing Nezu's words. We'll inform the boy when the time is right, Nezu continued. But right now, it's far too risky. He'd panic, and that's the last thing we want. With that, Nezu clapped his hands together, his smile returning. Now, let's see if this boy lives up to his father. After getting changed, Izuku exited the room and followed Power Loader to a massive gym. As they entered, Izuku noticed how vast and enclosed the space was, completely empty, perfect for a demonstration. Waiting for him were several pro heroes, Midnight, Cementos, Aizawa, All Might, and Nezu. Izuku, feeling the weight of their presence, bowed deeply in respect. It's an honor to meet you all. Midnight chuckled. Oh, you're quite energetic, aren't you? Greetings, young man, 𝗵𝗲𝗄 added with a nod. Aizawa, less enthused, sighed. Let's just get this over with. Nezu, ever composed, turned to Izuku. Now, Midoriya, if you could activate your quirk. Izuku swallowed hard, nerves gripping him. He was about to show them the Omnitrix for the first time. With trembling hands, he pressed the Omnitrix, a holographic figure appearing from the dial. He cycled through the forms before slamming down on the device. A bright green flash exploded in the room, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Izuku was gone. In his place stood a new alien form, blue-furred and muscular. Hey, where did the kid go? Present 𝗵𝗲𝗄 asked, looking around in confusion. Midoriya, now the alien, examined himself with wide eyes, curious about the blue fur covering his body. Or, I was hoping for the fire guy, the alien muttered in slight disappointment, his voice deep and unfamiliar. You're still learning to control these forms, correct? Nezu inquired, observing him closely. The alien nodded. Yeah, these powers just showed up yesterday. I'm not sure what they all do yet. Interesting, Nezu mused. Why don't you try running? See how fast you can go. The word run seemed to trigger something deep within the alien. His instinct screamed at him, pushing him into a runner's stance before he could think. Then, without warning, he took off. The effect was immediate. A massive gust of wind blasted through the gym, strong enough that Midnight struggled to keep her glasses on. Present 𝗵𝐼𝐶's jaw dropped, and his sunglasses shattered as they hit the floor. Clothes were ruffled, hair was blown askew, and several items were knocked over by the force of Izuku's speed. Izuku had become a blur, a blue blur racing through the room at incredible speed. Even All Might couldn't keep up with the alien's movements, as Midoriya zipped from one side of the gym to the other, leaving only a whirlwind in his wake. When he finally came to a stop, his momentum carried him a bit too far. Not used to his newfound speed, he stumbled and crashed into the wall with a loud thud. Despite the impact, he managed to say, "Whoa," his eyes wide with amazement at the sheer power he had just experienced. The gym was dead silent as the teachers stared, their expressions a mix of shock and amusement. Midoriya looked around sheepishly, taking in the chaos he had caused, teachers with ruffled hair, misplaced glasses, and slightly disheveled clothing. The boy immediately bowed in and apologized. I'm so sorry. 3. The teachers quickly ruffled their hair back to normal. Don't worry, kid. Your speed is truly something. I could barely track you moving that fast, All Might said, a grin on his face. Indeed, young man, your speed is remarkable, 𝗵𝗲𝗄 agreed, nodding. That kind of speed may be a displeasure to most women, Midnight added with a teasing tone. 3. Midnight, All Might and Aizawa warned in unison. We talked about this, All Might continued. Hey, he's not my student, so I have free rein, she retorted defensively. 2. Midoriya turned red with embarrassment as Nezu spoke up. So, Mr. Midoriya, there are 12 flying drones. I want to see what you can do. Try your best to disable them. You will have a minimum of 5 minutes. Hey, whoa. Isn't that a little too much for the boy? All Might interjected with concern. All Might, you know what's out there. We shouldn't coddle the boy, should we? Nezu replied. All Might glanced at the principal before turning to his pupil. Only if he agrees to it. Young Midoriya. Izuku gave an unsure nod, clearly nervous. As the 12 drones flew from the ground and began to surround him, the teachers stepped back, watching in concern. The alien gulped, the beeping of the drones filling the room as the countdown began. As the drones activated, they immediately started firing. Izuku's legs trembled, fear evident on his face. He had never been in a fight before, Kevin usually handled everything for him. Even when Izuku tried to help, he often ended up beaten with a single punch. As the alien braced himself for impact, preparing to be shot down like a trapped animal, he suddenly realized that the bullets hadn't hit him yet. He opened his eyes to see them approaching in slow motion. Hey, they're moving so slowly, he exclaimed, momentarily surprised. But despite this realization, his legs still shook uncontrollably, paralyzing him with fear. He was terrified. Even though I have a quirk, I'm still this weak, quirkless wimp. I can dodge bullets, but I'm just standing here. Why? 4 memories of being put down flooded his mind, how everyone had called him Deku, how they labeled him weak, wimp, and other hurtful names that chipped away at his already fragile pride and self-confidence. As he teetered on the verge of giving up, a few words echoed in his mind, a sentence from the man himself: "You too can be a hero." Izuku opened his eyes, and they glowed green like emeralds. Suddenly, he blasted off like a bullet, dodging the barrage of attacks aimed at his previous location. The teachers watched in awe as Izuku faced the 12 drones, which began firing relentlessly. With incredible agility, Izuku dodged every attack, leaping off walls and backflipping to avoid the hail of bullets. Not a single shot grazed him. The teachers were stunned, but Aizawa and Nezu wore disappointed expressions. "His only dodging," Aizawa said, his voice tinged with disappointment. "As fast as he is, he's merely evading attacks. Time's running out." Nezu checked the timer. 2 minutes and 50 seconds remained. Determined to test Izuku's limits, the principal increased the drone's firepower, equipping them with missiles. "Are you just going to keep running?" Aizawa asked, his eye glowing with intensity, his floating scarf billowing. "For 3 minutes and 10 seconds, you've been running and dodging. Nezu gave you 5 minutes to take down these drones, and you've wasted over half that time." The teacher's words cut deep. "All Might says you're special, but I think you're just a kid with too much power and no potential," Aizawa said, frustration etched on his face. "You can't become a hero, Midoriya." A missile launched, catching Izuku off guard. He stumbled backward as the blast hit the ground. The harsh word stung, and Izuku struggled to get back up. Everyone saw his struggle. Aizawa turned away, dismissing Izuku as a waste of time. But then, "No!" Izuku breathed, standing up, his resolve etched on his face. Aizawa halted, his gaze snapping back to Izuku. "I do have potential. I will be a hero." The alien shouted with passion and fiery spirit, his words resonating with those around him, reminding them of a familiar pro-hero and an old friend. The speedster stood up as the missiles armed themselves. He wiped some blood from his cheek, and everyone watched in confusion. "Why isn't he running away?" Midnight asked, concerned. Even All Might looked ready to step in. "Kid, run away." As the drones closed in and launched their missiles, instead of fleeing, the boy crouched into a running pose. With a sudden blast, he took off with a sonic boom, causing everyone to cover their ears. He charged towards the missile, leaped into the air, grabbed it, and threw it back toward the drone, destroying it in an explosion. Everyone watched in awe as the boy faced the remaining drones. Without hesitation, he sprinted at top speed, grabbing another drone and using it as both a shield and a weapon. As 2 more drones opened rapid fire, he dashed forward, using the captured drone to block the bullets. He rammed into them at full force, leaping onto one drone before slamming it into another, destroying both with precision. The speedster didn't stop for a second. More bullets came from a nearby drone, but he used the damaged drone as a shield again. 2 other drones approached from opposite sides, both ready to gun him down. Acting quickly, the boy threw the broken drone like a frisbee at the drone ahead of him, then backflipped out of the way just as the 2 remaining drones shot each other down. Breathing heavily, the boy saw there were 4 drones left. "Come on, Izuku. Think. I've studied every hero, especially those with speed quirks. I need to figure this out, I need to. Am I fast enough? Only one way to find out." The boy shouted, determination surging through him. Izuku bolted forward, rapidly closing the distance between him and the drones. As he picked up speed, a powerful current of wind formed in his wake. Faster and faster he ran, forcing the drones together. The sheer velocity began pulling them into each other as they smashed and collided. The boy pushed even harder, his speed creating a swirling vortex, the force of which kicked up dust and debris, forcing the teachers to shield themselves. The windstorm caused by his speed roared through the room, making it nearly impossible to see anything clearly. Finally, Izuku stopped, stumbling slightly as dizziness overtook him. As he came to a halt, the remains of the drones clattered to the ground like coins being dropped, their destruction complete. A loud beeping came from the Omnitrix, and a flash of green light engulfed the alien form, returning Izuku to his human self. The boy collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily, but he managed to push himself back to his feet. Nezu clicked the stopwatch, glancing down with a smile. 50 seconds remaining. This kid, Aizawa muttered, a rare grin spreading across his face. Young Midoriya, when did he get so cool? All Might thought, astonished. Izuku, still feeling dizzy, asked, how did I do? Excellent, Nezu said, smiling brightly. And with time to spare. The small mammal then turned to All Might. Now then, young Midoriya, since the device is stuck to your wrist, All Might, it will be your responsibility to teach the boy. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. You'll have plenty of time, Nezu continued. Think of this as a testing ground. How you train young Midoriya over the next 7 months will determine the results during the exams. Aizawa nodded. Seems logical. We won't have much time because of our responsibilities, but All Might, considering your injury and everything, you'll have plenty of free time. Midnight chimed in, didn't you expel your whole class, Aizawa? Midoriya's eyes widened in terror. He expelled his whole class. Aizawa shrugged. I still have my duties as a teacher, like the rest of you. And I'm a pro hero, I've got other stuff to handle, too, he said. Then, with a grin, he added, besides, if the kid fails, it'll reflect on All Might as a teacher. Wouldn't want a teacher with such incompetence working here, would we? All Might, however, remained calm. I can assure you that young Midoriya will pass the entrance exam with flying colors. But until then, I'll need to help him learn fast. The UA entrance exam is in 7 months, so we need to prepare. One of the plumbers in the room added ominously, and prepare for what's coming. Vilgax. Midoriya gave a nervous smile before suddenly realizing something. Hey, I turned back to normal. You seem surprised, 𝗬𝗵𝗲 remarked. Well, yesterday I stayed in alien form for like an hour, until All Might knocked me out, Izuku admitted. He did what? Everyone turned to All Might, who was fidgeting awkwardly, his fingers pressed together guiltily. It was the only solution we could think of. We couldn't let him show up at home as a giant bonfire, All Might said defensively. And your first thought was to knock him out? Aizawa asked, visibly annoyed. Nezu, his aura suddenly menacing, added, please find a better method of turning back to human form that doesn't involve All Might knocking you out. Both All Might and Midoriya shivered. Wise, sir, they stammered in unison. Midoriya then perked up, sounding excited. But this confirms something important. Each transformation seems to be linked to me. If I'm unwell, the transformation is too. If I'm fatigued, I revert back to human. As the day came to a close, Midoriya and All Might stood on the beach, wrapping up their training session. Midoriya had noticed that moving the trash had become much easier, his stamina, strength, and speed had all noticeably improved. All right, young Midoriya, that's enough for today, All Might said, wiping some sweat off his brow. Now, we should focus on figuring out how you can transform back. Do you know any quirk users who specialize in transformation? Midoriya hesitated before answering. Not really, he said, but it wasn't entirely true. I do know a few people in my class, but they want nothing to do with me. All Might thought for a moment. Have you tried tapping the faceplate when you're transformed? That's literally the first thing I tried. Midoriya replied with frustration. Well, until we figure it out, it might be best to avoid transforming unless necessary. You definitely don't want your mother to find you in the form of a heat blast. Heat blast. Midoriya raised an eyebrow. Yes, your fire transformation. You should give them names to help distinguish between them. Plus that. Makes sense, I guess, Midoriya nodded. All Might continued, tomorrow, let's start categorizing all of your transformations and testing their abilities, alright. Midoriya nodded eagerly, a bright smile spreading across his face. For some reason, a phrase suddenly came to him, a cosmic, powerful feeling that felt both unfamiliar and strangely fitting. It's hero time. Midoriya stood on the beach, cracking his knuckles. It was Sunday, meaning he had the entire day to test his transformations. All Might, in his normal form, stood nearby, observing. Midoriya, wearing his green jumpsuit, met All Might's gaze, and the pro hero gave a nod. Midoriya nodded back. All right. Today, we need to figure out what these forms can do. He pressed the button on the Omnitrix, and the dial popped up, displaying a holographic silhouette. With determination, Midoriya slammed down on the Omnitrix, feeling the rush of energy as he was engulfed in a bright green flash. As the light faded, All Might watched closely and saw. As the light faded, All Might watched closely and saw a 𝗧𝗵𝗲. All Might mused. Whoa, forearms! Izuku exclaimed, staring at his transformed body. A bit unoriginal for a name, but if you're happy with it. Here. Oh no, but I guess it'll do, Izuku replied, still marveling at his massive muscles. He flexed, taking in his new, towering physique. All Might, who was normally the largest presence in the room, looked small by comparison. Judging by his height, Izuku estimated he now stood about 12 feet tall. He could feel raw power coursing through him, stronger than anything he'd ever felt before. This form, it's like you, All Might. Maybe even stronger. Forearms muttered, clenching his massive fists. He crouched down, preparing to leap. Sensing what was coming, All Might quickly called out a warning. Hey, kid, be careful. Stay within the beach's limits, all right. Forearms gave a quick nod, then launched himself into the air with an explosive shockwave, sending nearby trash flying. All Might had to brace himself as the powerful leap reverberated through the ground. The alien soared through the air, crashing down with a thunderous boom on the far side of the beach. The impact sent a massive cloud of sand and debris flying, scattering the trash in all directions. Whoa, All Might whispered, his eyes wide in awe. All Might soon ran down, breathing heavily in his regular form. Young Midoriya. Huff. Are you? Puff. All right. Yeah. I'm more than okay. Midoriya exclaimed, excitement in his voice as he spotted a truck buried in the trash pile. Without hesitation, he lifted it over his head with ease. This feels awesome. We should avoid using forearms for cleaning the beach, All Might advised. Here. Why not? I could clean it all up in minutes. And that's the problem, All Might responded with a serious tone. Your transformation is tied to you, but forearms is too strong. You won't build endurance or tear muscle fibers for growth. This form is better suited for combat. Midoriya gulped at the sound of that last word. See combat. Who will be teaching me? All Might grinned, then suddenly, with booming laughter that echoed across the beach, he transformed into his muscular form. The sheer presence of the towering hero left forearms stunned. All Might cracked his knuckles. Now, young Midoriya, let's see what you can do. Put 'em up. Forearms hesitated, raising all four hands, still clearly nervous. Despite the massive muscles, he was still young Midoriya inside, trembling slightly. All Might took a step forward, arms raised, ready for battle. Listen carefully, All Might instructed, his voice calm but firm. First, take a deep breath. When facing an opponent, you can't show fear. Stand tall, breathe slow, and stay relaxed. Forearms closed his eyes, inhaling deeply, then exhaling slowly. As he did, the tremor in his hands started to fade. His massive fists clenched as he steadied himself, and when he opened his eyes, the fear was gone. All Might's grin widened. Good. Now, don't let adrenaline overwhelm you. Keep your hips square to your opponent. Let them make the first move. All Might launched a punch towards the alien with surprising speed. Instinctively, forearms dodged, reacting faster than he expected. All Might's eyes widened as forearms countered, ping his fist back and landing a solid punch to All Might's face, sending him stumbling back in surprise. All Might rubbed his chin, still smiling. Did I just land a hit on All Might? All Might, chuckling, rubbed the spot where the alien's punch connected. The force was impressive, a testament to the alien's strength. Yes, you did, All Might said, grinning. Now, let's see if you can take a punch. With a burst of speed, All Might closed the distance and unleashed a powerful blow, utilizing 35% of One for All's power. The punch generated a shockwave, sending nearby trash flying. Four Arms braced himself, arms raised in a shield position. The impact was immense, but to both All Might's and Midoriya's surprise, Four Arms didn't budge. "I took a punch from All Might," Four Arms exclaimed, his body shaking. Emboldened, Four Arms used his strength to push All Might back, creating some distance. He adopted a fighting stance, though his inexperience was evident. "I'll admit, you're pretty strong, but..." All Might declared before grinning. In an instant, All Might bridged the distance, his fist ped back and ready to strike. Four Arms didn't have time to react. "But you lack experience." The punch crashed into Four Arms' stomach like a freight train, forcing the air from his lungs. Saliva sprayed from his mouth as he clutched his abdomen, his eyes bulging. Four Arms struggled to rise, but All Might's swift combos sent him crashing back down. A devastating hook connected with Four Arms' jaw, followed by a crushing uppercut that sent him soaring. All Might's final blow, a mighty punch to the chest, launched Four Arms across the beach, sending trash scattering everywhere. The force of the impact created a shockwave, rattling nearby debris. The Omnitrix flashed green before engulfing Izuku in a brilliant, emerald light, reverting him to his human form. All Might offered a nod of approval. "Impressive, young Midoriya. You lasted longer than most foes." Izuku groaned, tenderly clutching his stomach. "Thanks, All Might." "Honored." All Might's grin widened. "Rest up, 3 down. We've got 7 transformations left to test." "Young Midoriya." "Ahaha." Izuku winced, foreboding settling in. "Something tells me today is going to hurt." A few minutes later, Midoriya was reviewing his new plan to MSTR One for All and his training schedule for the next 7 months. He was munching on a dumpling when he suddenly heard the familiar beep of the Omnitrix. Stretching his arms, he called out, "All Might. I'm ready." As he began dialing the Omnitrix, he skipped past the aliens he had already transformed into, finally slamming down on the dial. In a burst of green light, he transformed. "It seems I'm a seafood platter," Midoriya said, looking down at his new form. All Might groaned in annoyance as he recognized the transformation. "Cerebro-crustacean. They're the most condescending aliens I've ever met, especially that Dr. Psychobos. Hopefully, that attitude isn't in the DNA." Midoriya, adjusting to his new form, replied, and apparently, I possess a highly advanced intellect. Ergo, I should assign this new life form a more fitting name. How about Brainstorm?" Brainstorm began pacing around as electricity crackled from his brain, sending sparks to the papers Midoriya had been reading. Brainstorm began pacing around as electricity crackled from his brain, sending sparks to the papers Midoriya had been reading. They floated into the air, dancing with arcs of energy around him. "Interesting. I'll need to make some adjustments to address your glaring flaws. First, instead of the usual exercises like lifting heavy weights or running, we should focus on improving my endurance. My transformations require stamina, and enhancing my endurance will allow me to maintain these forms for extended PRDS." All Might couldn't help but nod in agreement, even if the alien's condescending tone grated on him. 2. We should also prioritize increasing my durability and muscle density. This will acclimate me to the overwhelming power of One for All. Based on my calculations, with this approach, I can optimize my readiness to receive your quirk 2 months before the entrance exam. During that time, I'll also refine my ability to utilize One for All when I revert to my human form. All Might grinned at the crab-like alien, who was now meticulously adjusting the plan with a pen. But then, Brainstorm's expression shifted to one of annoyance. "All Might." The pro-hero suddenly felt like a student being summoned to the principal's office. "Why yes. Your original plan was for me to receive One for All in 10 months, am I correct?" "Yes. Judging by these adjustments, you intended to grant me One for All on the day of the entrance exam, correct?" All Might gulped. "Well, yes. So, you were planning to give me a quirk without any combat training. Analyzing the risks involved, if I were to use your power without proper preparation, The resultant consequences could lead to catastrophic injuries, including bone fractures, before the exam even begins. I trust I'm mistaken because such oversight would indicate a severe lack of foresight. I mean, you would have done fine. Annoyed, Brainstorm opened his brain, unleashing a concentrated blast of electricity toward All Might, who twitched in pain. As the sun began to set, a flash of green light illuminated the beach, revealing Midoriya lying on the ground, breathing heavily and breathing from exhaustion. Due to his lack of knowledge about the Omnitrix, the only way he could transform back to normal was by completely exhausting himself, which he had done through all the transformations. The beach was littered with pale crystals pierced into the sand, while some appliances lay melted and covered in green slime. Others were ensnared in a web-like substance, and black scorch marks dotted the sand, remnants of lightning strikes. All Might stood nearby, covered in scorch marks, his clothing shredded and splattered with green goo. He had reverted to his normal form as well. "Seems we've figured out what all your transformations can do," All Might said, breathing heavily. "I'll try to allocate a day for each of the transformations for you to work on." Exhausted, Midoriya could only manage a weak thumbs up. "You should probably avoid transforming, especially if you don't know how to turn back. You don't want to show up to class as Ghost Freak," All Might advised. Midoriya nodded but turned to All Might with a concerned expression at the mention of Ghost Freak. Speaking of Ghost Freak, it feels strange turning into him. "How so?" All Might asked, curious. "Well, with all my transformations, it feels like it's me, but I'm also someone else, like how some pros say wearing a mask makes them feel like a different person." All Might nodded. "Yes, you do seem to get a bit of a confidence boost, not by much, but it's noticeable. Brainstorm, however, makes you come off as a condescending." Midoriya groaned in embarrassment. "I said I was sorry." "It's fine, but go on," All Might encouraged. "But with Ghost Freak, it feels like I'm actually someone else, like I'm hijacking someone else's body. And he doesn't like it." A moment of silence hung in the air, broken only by All Might's shivering. "Okay, kid. That was terrifying. But I doubt you need to worry about it for now." Midoriya nodded uncertainly just as his phone rang. He picked it up and answered, "Hey, yeah. I'll be home soon. Bye. Love you too." As Izuku headed home for the day, he walked with heavy eyelids, struggling to keep himself awake as yawns escaped him. When he finally returned home, he could barely muster the energy to plop down onto his bed, instantly passing out from exhaustion. Next morning, Midoriya household, 𝗵𝗲 Prefecture, Tokyo, Japan. "Honey, wake up. You're going to be late for school." Midoriya groaned, turning from side to side in his bed before finally waking up. He resigned himself to another day of being treated like a freak, the whispers about him being quirkless echoing in his mind. Then, a realization dawned on him. "Wait, I have a quirk. That means..." Midoriya halted that train of thought. Of course, he wanted to show everyone that the useless Deku, a nickname that had brought him so much pain, wasn't so useless after all. But, it wouldn't be right. Just because I have a quirk doesn't mean I have to be like Kaken and flaunt my powers around. I have nothing to prove. And Kevin's status has been a good deterrent for bullies. As Midoriya put on his uniform, he made sure to hide the Omnitrix under his sleeve. After a quick breakfast and a kiss on his mother's cheek, he heard the familiar horn of a car. Spotting Kevin in his muscle car, he waved back. "What are you waiting for? Let's go." Kevin shouted as Midoriya hopped into the car, hesitating for just a moment, knowing Kevin drove like a maniac. After putting on his seatbelt, the belt gave a shaky thumbs up. As they sped off, Kevin glanced at the strange-looking watch on Midoriya's wrist. Izuku. What's up with that watch? It looks super weird." Midoriya's heart raced as he tried to hide the Omnitrix, earning a suspicious stare from Kevin. I like it. I got it 2 days ago. Is that weird?" "Yeah, like super weird, but that suits you perfectly, super weird," Kevin replied with a chuckle. Midoriya laughed nervously, but Kevin's probing didn't stop. He noted the symbol on the watch, but the conversation soon shifted as they arrived at school. As they walked through the halls, the boys ignored the stares and whispers from the other students. They made their way to the lockers, but Kevin's expression darkened when he saw Izuku's locker. It was a mess of vandalism, covered in cruel messages scrawled in bright red and black marker. "Quirkless freak," one message screamed. "You'll never be a hero," another taunted. The locker bore the marks of countless insults, the metal surface scratched and dented as if it were a target for all the pent-up aggression of the students around them. Midoriya's heart sank as he took in the hurtful words. For a brief moment, he felt the sting of their cruelty. It was a familiar pain. But then, a thought pierced through the fog of negativity, a memory of the one person who truly believed in him. All Might, he whispered to himself, his thoughts turning to the hero who had told him he could be great. That belief rekindled a flicker of determination within him. Kevin's fists clenched in anger, ready to knock some heads, but Izuku seemed to shake off the pain. He simply grabbed some books, a newfound resolve strengthening his posture as he made his way to class. When he opened the classroom door, a hush fell over the room. Students glanced at him, some surprised by his lack of reaction, while others pointed and jeered, "Quirkless loser." Usually, such taunts would draw a painful reaction from him, a forced laugh, a pained joke, or a feigned indifference. Everyone could see the tears he tried to hide, but today was different. This time, he straightened his shoulders and faced the insults head-on, as if the words bounced off him. "All Might thinks I can be a hero. His opinion means more to me than them." Kevin just smiled. "You see that, losers? You can try to kick him down, but you'll never keep him down." The group of students glared in frustration before walking away. Midoriya waved goodbye to his friend and made his way back to class. As the school day came to an end, Izuku walked out of the building. Kevin said we would meet at his car. He looked around, feeling confusion and worry when he spotted a group of students gathered around Kevin's car. They wore malicious grins. "So this is Levin's car?" "Yeah, that freak Levin. You know he keeps defending that useless Deku. We can't break him, but how about we break his car? Satoru is distracting Levin, so we have plenty of time to mess it up. I'll leave it alone," Izuku said, his legs trembling. The group turned to him, and they all burst into laughter. "As I was saying, let's mess this thing up. If you don't leave, I'll stop you myself." The group laughed even harder, and one of the bullies punched him in the face, sending him crashing to the ground. The bully grabbed him by the collar and pulled him close. "Listen here, Deku. Stay out of my way, or I'll hurt you worse than Bakugo could ever dream." Midoriya felt a surge of determination and grabbed the bully's arm. "I said leave it alone." Everyone was surprised to see Izuku stand up for himself, and they had never witnessed that look in his eyes before. The thug clenched his teeth and punched him again, throwing him aside like trash. "And what are you going to do about it, you quirkless loser?" Then Izuku heard the Omnitrix beep, almost as if it was reminding him of his options. He quickly glanced at the group before running away to find a hiding spot. The bullies watched him flee, then turned to each other and laughed loudly. "What a loser!" The onlookers joined in the laughter, but Izuku wasn't running out of fear. He was searching for a place to transform. He eventually found a secluded spot where he could hide and prepare for what came next. "Okay, Izuku, just go ghost freak and scare the breeds off them." Izuku gave a shaky smile, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves as he pressed the button on the Omnitrix. A holographic figure of Heat Blast appeared before scrolling through the options, stopping at the Spectre. "Alright, I'm just going to get them away from Kevin's car. He's done so much for me that I owe him this." Izuku gulped, then slammed down on the Omnitrix. In a flash of green light, he transformed but found himself not as Ghost Freak. Fast track. He hugged the corner, his heart racing as he watched the boys preparing to vandalize the car. "It's hero time," Fast Track declared before darting out of the corner like a bullet, a blue blur shooting past. "Oh man, Deku never, One of the bullies was suddenly punched in the face. Sent staggering back as Fast Track weaved through the group with incredible speed. Kevin emerged from the school, a smile spreading across his face as he witnessed the 6 thugs being overwhelmed by the rapid movement of the blue figure. No one could track Fast Track's swift strikes, which landed with a heavy impact that sent several bullies tumbling to the ground. "What are you?" one of the thugs shouted in confusion. In a flash, Fast Track struck another thug, sending him crashing into his friends and knocking them down like bowling pins. The force of the impacts left them reeling and disoriented. Fast Track zipped around, delivering quick jabs and kicks that sent the bullies sprawling. By the time he stopped, the thugs were left tangled together on the ground, utterly humiliated. Fast Track crashed down in a rather ungraceful manner but quickly stood up, pretending nothing had happened. In 𝗑𝗲𝗏𝗺𝗔𝗂𝐻𝐵 underwear. "Really?" he quipped, glancing at the bullies who were now too embarrassed to respond. Everyone stared at the blue and black creature in disbelief. Kevin noticed the symbol on its chest and immediately had questions, but for now, he felt a sense of relief as the thugs ran away, humiliated, while laughter erupted from the onlookers. "Hey!" Kevin called out. Fast Track turned, panic flashing across his face as he heard Kevin's voice. He gave a shy wave before darting away, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Kevin stood there, confused, trying to process everything that had just happened. Fast Track zoomed through the streets at an incredible speed, struggling to control his momentum as he tried to slow down. A girl with earphone jacks as earlobes was walking home, about to catch the train when a sudden gust of wind rushed past her, blowing her hair and jacket slightly. Surprised, she looked around but saw nothing. "What was that?" she muttered, confused. Nearby, a guy with spiky blonde hair and a tail was about to enter a gym to train for the UA entrance exam. As he glanced down the street, he was surprised to see a blue and black blur racing past. "Whoa, that guy's fast. I didn't even see him." A girl with an unexpressive face, dressed in her school uniform with black hair, was walking home as well. She suddenly felt a gust of wind lift her skirt, which she quickly pressed down. Assuming it was just a random breeze, she continued walking without a second thought. Above the city, a man with red wings soared through the sky, his feathers assisting in a few rescue efforts. For a moment, he felt something moving at incredible speeds. As he looked down, he caught a glimpse of a streak of blue dashing through the streets. He smiled, impressed by the speedster below. Meanwhile, a man in white armor was tying up some thugs with his teammates. "All right, let's wait for the police to handle these guys." Suddenly, they all felt a powerful gust of wind rush by, nearly knocking off the armored man's helmet. "Whoa, whoever that is, they are fast." He grinned and adjusted his helmet before taking off, his engine roaring in an attempt to match the mysterious speedster. Fast Track, however, wasn't doing as well as he hoped. "Okay, Izuku, let's stop," he muttered to himself. But as he tried to slow down, he lost control and crashed straight into a pile of trash cans, sending debris everywhere. Dazed, he lay there for a moment, swirls in his eyes. As he attempted to stand up, a voice called out, "You okay?" Fast Track looked up, blinking to clear his vision. Standing above him was an armored man, one he quickly recognized. 𝗲𝗏𝗺. Fast Track exclaimed, his excitement barely contained. 𝗲𝗏𝗵 chuckled, seeing the awe in the blue cat-like figure's eyes. "I take it you've heard of me." "Oh, of course I have. You're part of the 𝐸𝐸 family hero agency. They're one of the oldest hero agencies around, with most members being heroes for generations." 𝗲𝗏𝗵 chuckled. "Guess I don't need an introduction." Excitement quickly turned to worry for Fast Track. "ACK. Wait, you're not here to arrest me, are you?" 𝗲𝗏𝗵 waved it off with a laugh. No, nothing like that. But crashing into trash bins isn't exactly the smoothest move, is it? Fast Track scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "Yeah, stopping isn't my strong suit right now." I see," 𝗲𝗏𝗵 nodded thoughtfully. "How about some help from a fellow speedster?" Fast Track's eyes lit up with excitement. "I'd be honored." But then he hesitated. "Wait, aren't you super busy though?" 𝗲𝗏𝗵 smiled reassuringly. "You can never be too busy to help someone in need. Plus, you don't want to crash into more trash bags, do you?" "And no, not really," Fast Track replied, embarrassed. "All right, when stopping at high speeds, especially for speedsters like us, it's important to grind to a stop. Keep your feet at a steady angle as you slow down. The friction from your feet will help bring you to a stop gradually. Just don't push your feet too close together, or you'll risk twisting an ankle. Fast Track nodded rapidly, taking in every word before assuming a runner's stance. 𝗓𝗓𝗏 watched as the blue blur sped off again, making sure to follow closely to assist if needed. Onlookers were amazed as they watched the two speedsters zoom down the street. Grind to a stop. 𝗓𝗏𝗏 called out. Fast Track grinned, focusing on keeping his feet steady. He skidded to a halt, coming to a smooth stop down the street. Breathing, he beamed. I did it. One 𝗓𝗏𝗏, thoroughly impressed, ran up to him. That was amazing. Most speedsters don't pick it up that fast. Fast Track bowed deeply. Thank you. This means so much to me. With this speed, I'll definitely ace the entrance exam for UA. UA. How old are you? 𝗓𝗏𝗏 asked, tilting his head. Here. 15. Why? Fast Track replied. Wow, really? You just don't look like the typical teenager, even with your mutation-type quirk, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 said with a hint of surprise. Fast Track blushed slightly. Well, it's actually a transformation-type quirk. I don't always look like this. My other transformations are even more drastic. Transformations. You can take on more than one form. 𝗓𝗏𝗏 asked, intrigued. Yeah, my quirk lets me transform into different forms with other abilities, Fast Track explained. I see, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 nodded. So, I take it you haven't fully embraced your speed yet, here. Going faster will also affect your techniques. You're really something. The pro put a hand to his chin, thinking. You're definitely rough around the edges, but with your high speed, which I've never seen before, and the way your body moves so precisely and flexibly, you've got serious potential. And from what you said about having other transformations, your quirk can do it all. Fast Track blushed at the praise. Yeah, but I'm still getting used to my powers. I haven't even figured out how to turn back unless I exhaust myself. Plus, I don't think my speed would be that useful in most situations. Not true. Speed really matters, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 said firmly. Think about it. When people are caught in accidents, natural disasters, or villain attacks, what do you think is going through their minds? Someone save me. Close. They're thinking, someone save me quickly. 𝗓𝗏𝗏's voice grew more passionate. When the world's turned upside down by some big emergency, very few people can stay calm. They get scared, nervous, like lost children. That's why it's my job to reach them even a second sooner, to give them that peace of mind. For heroes, the number one factor is speed. Fast Track listened intently, taking in every word. In my opinion, anyway, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 continued with a smile. But unlike most pros, you're not limited by just one aspect of your quirk. You can literally be the hero for any moment of crisis, the hero someone desperately needs. For example, if there's a fire, some heroes like 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 wouldn't be able to do much. But you could. Unless you don't have a fire form. I actually do. His name is Heatblast. Exactly my point, 𝗓𝗏𝗏 said. You can save anyone in any situation. I hope you remember that. Fast Track looked at himself, realization dawning on him. He could help so many people if he mastered his forms. He could be the most versatile hero. Before he could finish, they both heard the distant shouts of some women. Bring those back. Here. Both speedsters shared a look of surprise. Someone help. Those creeps stole something. Perverts. Get back here. 𝗓𝗏𝗏 smiled, ready for action. Looks like we're needed. Fast Track nodded eagerly. Oh, right. Wanna join me? 𝗓𝗏𝗏 asked with a grin. You're pretty fast. How about we take down these villains together? Fast Track nodded, and 𝗓𝗏𝗏 smirked. Okay, keep up, rookie. The pro hero blasted off, leaving the boy stunned. What? Expecting a countdown or something? Better start running. 𝗓𝗏𝗏 teased. Fast Track immediately followed, matching his speed as they arrived at the scene. 3 individuals wearing purple costumes were there, one of them holding panties. The scowl of the women nearby made it clear what had happened. Give those back, you perverts. Hey, it's 𝗓𝗏𝗏, one of the women yelled. The three culprits turned, their expressions turning to fear. Ingenium protocol, one of them shouted. Suddenly, purple spheres flew from the bushes, sticking to the ground. Ingenium took a step forward but accidentally stepped on one of the spheres. Hey! He realized he couldn't move. The perverts took off, stuffing the stolen underwear into a bag. Fast Track, using his incredible speed, darted forward and snatched the bag from them. He opened it, his face wrinkling at the sight of the stolen undergarments. Hey, those are ours, one of the perverts protested. Yeah, we stole them fair and square. We earned them. A voice from the bushes yelled, we agreed to split them 50-50. No, they're not. Fast Track shot back, dodging as they tried to pelt him with more purple spheres. With ease, he dodged every attack, moving in a blur. Meanwhile, Ingenium managed to free himself, moving swiftly to knock out all three perverts with quick strikes. Fast Track then rushed to the bushes, hoping to find the mysterious person who had been throwing the spheres, but they had already escaped. He was about to search for them when Ingenium called out, Hey, kid, how about you find some rope so we can tie these guys up? Fast Track ran off and quickly found some rope, handing it to Ingenium. The pro hero tied up the perverts, who were now fast asleep. Hey kid, I still don't know your name, Ingenium said, looking at him curiously. Oh, Izuku Midoriya, Fast Track said, reverting to his usual self as the green light of the Omnitrix engulfed him. Soon, the women ran over, showering Ingenium with thanks, completely ignoring Midoriya. Thank you, Ingenium. You were amazing. And so dreamy, one of them gushed. Hey, I helped too, no, Midoriya groaned, his head hanging in disappointment. As the perverts were tied up and the stolen undergarments returned, a beeping sound came from the Omnitrix, and Fast Track transformed back into his regular self. So that's what you usually look like. A little plain, Ingenium teased. Yeah, I get that a lot, Midoriya replied, unfazed. Ahem. A girl with vines for hair stepped forward, bowing politely. Thank you for retrieving my undergarments. Those vermin should be ashamed. I'll pray for them. Thank you both. Midoriya was too flustered to respond, but Ingenium took charge. Oh, don't worry about it. It's what heroes do. As the girl walked away, Ingenium reached into his armor and pulled out a card. Here, he said, holding it out to Midoriya. Midoriya's eyes widened in disbelief. You have real potential, kid. I can see you making it big one day. If you ever want to work with us, the Ida Family Hero Agency would be happy to have you. We believe in winning the day through teamwork. Midoriya looked at the card, his eyes brimming with tears. This was the first time a hero, aside from All Might, had recognized him. Overwhelmed with emotion, he took the card with shaking hands. I won't let you down, he promised. The pro chuckled before blasting off with a wave goodbye. As he stared at the card with a smile. Itsuka Kendo wiped the sweat from her brow as she took a shortcut home. She'd been warned that her usual route was risky, perverts and some scuffles with speedsters like Ingenium had been reported. Still, after a long training session at her dojo, she wasn't in the mood for trouble. None of the boys at the dojo had given her a real challenge today, too scared of being beaten by a girl or too prideful to fight her seriously. As she walked, she felt the familiar weight of her gym bag slung over her shoulder and the coolness of the towel draped around her neck. Hey boys, look what we found, Kendo paused, turning her head to see 4 men staggering toward her, reeking of alcohol. Their eyes leered over her sweat-drenched figure in her gym clothes. She had just been minding her own business, taking a sip from her water bottle, but these guys clearly had other plans. It's our lucky day, boys, one of them slurred, grinning. That sweaty body's turning me on already. Kendo felt her BLD start to boil. F off. The leader chuckled, liking his lips. I'm gonna enjoy breaking you and making you my personal toy. Her eyes narrowed, her hand tightening around the bottle. Last warning. Leave me alone, or you're all gonna be eating through a straw. The men laughed harder, clearly thinking she was bluffing. One of them, the leader, took a step closer. Cute tough girl act, princess, but don't call me princess. Before she could crack her knuckles and teach them a lesson, another voice rang out. "Leave her alone." Kendo and the men turned to the source, expecting some tall, muscular guy ready to play the hero. But instead, it was a scrawny boy with a mess of green hair. He looked nervous, yet determined as he stood between her and the men. Kendo frowned. "This is supposed to be my hero. Some plain-looking kid. She didn't need help, and this wasn't the white knight she expected, anyway." The four thugs broke into laughter again, the leader wiping away a tear. "Get lost, shrimp. We've got business with her." Izuku's legs were shaking, but he stepped forward, taking a deep breath. "I said, back off." The laughter stopped, and the leader's expression darkened. His fist coated itself in jagged rocks as he sneered. "Looks like we've got ourselves a hero, boys. Let's teach him a lesson, then make him watch." "Fine idea," the leader agreed as he cracked his knuckles and charged at the green-haired boy. Kendo sighed, ready to step in and save this reckless kid, but to her surprise, the boy dodged the attack, swift and precise. His counterpunch was even more shocking. It landed square on the thug's jaw, knocking him out cold. I did it." Izuku gasped, staring at his hand in disbelief. But the victory was short-lived. The other thugs took advantage of his distraction, delivering a hard right hook to Izuku's face, breaking his nose and sending him backwards onto the ground. "Idiot," Kendo muttered, having seen enough. Before the other three thugs could react, she exploded into motion. The first thug swung a punch at her, but Kendo ducked, grabbing his wrist. With a sharp twist and a pivot on her heel, she flung him over her shoulder, sending him crashing into the asphalt. He didn't even have time to groan before he was out cold. The second thug, now fully aware of the danger, charged at her, but Kendo sidestepped smoothly. She drove her elbow into his ribs, doubling him over, then delivered a swift spinning kick to the side of his head. The man's body hit the pavement with a dull thud. The last thug hesitated, his eyes wide with fear, but Kendo didn't give him time to act. She advanced on him with lightning speed, weaving through his clumsy punches with ease. With a swift series of palm strikes, she disarmed him, then landed a knee straight to his solar plexus. He collapsed, gasping for air, before Kendo finished him off with a roundhouse kick that sent him sprawling across the alley. Izuku, still holding his stomach from the earlier punch, stared in awe at Kendo. She had dispatched the remaining three thugs in a matter of seconds, barely breaking a sweat. She glanced down at him, clearly unimpressed by his attempt to help. "You all right?" she asked, hands on her hips. Izuku, with a bloody nose and wide eyes, managed a nod. Why yeah. You were amazing. I've never seen anyone fight like that." Izuku exclaimed, his eyes wide with admiration. "How can someone be that strong?" Kendo smiled at him, her demeanor relaxed. "Thanks. It was just a little martial arts, but I really didn't need your help." "Thanks anyway." Izuku felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him as he scratched the back of his head. "Why, I guess I didn't do much. I just thought you could use some help. Why do I always have to make things so awkward?" Kendo assessed him thoughtfully. "He's pretty plain, not really my type," she considered. "But those bruises tell me this isn't his first fight. He probably didn't win most of them, though." She walked over to her gym bag and pulled out a pamphlet, scribbling something down. "Hey, Izuku Midoriya," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Itsuka Kendo," she replied, looking at him straightforwardly. "Listen, you look like the type who attracts a lot of trouble, so here." She handed him the pamphlet with a small smile. Izuku stared at it in confusion. "A dojo?" he asked, trying to process the information. "Yeah, my grandpa runs a dojo nearby. If you want, maybe you can train or something." "A dojo? Learning some martial arts could really expand my fighting style, especially if I can use them in my transformations." He began to mumble to himself, excitement bubbling up inside him. "Wait, I hope I'm not creeping her out." Kendo raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, you have a transformation-type quirk too?" Izuku snapped out of his muttering, surprised by her interest. Yeah. I'm still learning about it." Talking to someone with a transformation quirk could really help me. I could probably learn how to transform back. Cool. If you do choose to come to the dojo, we can trade transformation secrets. You know, scratch your back, scratch mine, that kind of thing. Izuku nodded eagerly, but then glanced at his phone, panic rising. Oh. I gotta go. Bye, Kendo. By the way, the number on the pamphlet is mine. Text me if you want. She called out as he turned to leave. Izuku ran down the street as Kendo waved goodbye to the strange kid. Izuku ran down the street as Kendo waved goodbye to the strange kid. As Izuku made it to the train as he was heading to Mustufu Prefecture, he looked at the pamphlet with a smile as realization soon dawned on him. Hi TT talked to a girl. He looked at the pamphlet looking at the number. I got a girl's number. Midoriya's face turned completely red as he laughed, which unfortunately creeped out the bystanders. Kevin Levin was many things: a delinquent, troublemaker, sure, but despite all the bad things people labeled him, he still wasn't a bad guy. Sure would he break the rules on an occasion, but he's a teenager who wouldn't. Right now, he was in a dark room. Dear Kevin. He turned to the voice that echoed throughout the room. The voice always goaded, always told him to absorb, to take. It was like a hunger that begged for itself fulfilled. I sense power. Power that you can't imagine. The voice sounded ecstatic. Go away. Leave me alone, Kevin growled in annoyance. Why? Do you hold yourself back? We are strong. We should not shut it. Kevin shouted to the void. I know what you are, a little present from dear old dad. I'm happy that BSTRD is dead. And whatever you are, I'm not going to be like him. A person who takes, and takes, I refuse to be like that demon. 3. The voice just chuckled in amusement as the place began to grow darker, the walls closing in as a hand erupted, holding him down as one began to approach. He struggled, in place as then. He woke up with a jolt as he woke up in a cold sweat and breathed heavily, grasping his face in fear. It had been a full week since Izuku discovered the Omnitrix. He had been training regularly and had informed All Might about the dojo where he was learning martial arts. All Might found the idea splendid. Before, their schedule had been tight, but now, with the Omnitrix, All Might could fit in some martial arts training. Now, Izuku stood in front of the dojo, shaking like a leaf in the wind. He took a deep breath before walking inside. The moment he entered, the smell of sweat flooded his senses. As he looked around, he noticed people sparring with one another. Oh, Midoriya, you made it. The voice of Itsuka Kendo reached him as she approached, accompanied by an old man hunched over and holding a cane. Seeing Kendo in her training gear made Izuku blush. She looked really cute. Hi. The old man began to circle around Izuku, observing him with keen interest. Kendo looked somewhat embarrassed but didn't say anything to stop him. After a few moments, Izuku felt he should ask. What is he doing? He's sizing you up, shouted a boy who was wiping sweat off his forehead. Don't worry, he did the same thing with us. Oh, okay, Izuku replied. The man stopped and faced him directly, staring into his eyes while everyone watched in anticipation. His cane slammed to the ground, causing Izuku to flinch. From what I can see, you're spineless. Pathetic. Weak. A hush fell over the group at the old man's blunt assessment. Kendo felt compelled to speak up. Grandpa, don't you think? But she was cut off when he raised a hand. But, he continued, when I look into your eyes, I see that the world has tried to put you down. I see that the world has tried to crush you, but it has only strengthened your unbreakable spirit. You have heart and soul, but your lack of self-confidence and timid nature will hold you back. Izuku stood silent and stunned as the man continued. Right now, you're nothing but a candle. He turned his back to Izuku. Itsuka. His tone was firm, and the girl stood rigid with her arms on her hips. Hi. You said you haven't been challenged enough, am I right? Yes, sensei, she replied. In 5 months, I expect this boy to be a raging inferno. You both have a lot of work to do. Both Kendo. And Izuku screamed, what? But Grandpa, It's sensei, my pupil. Take this as another lesson to learn. Now, Please take young Izuku for a moment. You're both the same age, so I hope you become friends as student and MSTR. Kendo looked somewhat annoyed but sighed, giving a nod before smiling at Izuku. Before he could say anything, Kendo grabbed him by the wrist, pulling him up and out of the room with surprising ease. She was much stronger than she looked. Come on, Midoriya, let's get going. Thus began the months with Kendo to come. As she pulled him past the dojo and into the back room, a mixture of a storage area, locker room, nurse's office, and weight room, Izuku looked around in awe. He noticed practice weapons, such as staffs, stacked in a corner. After some weight measurements and a series of questions, Kendo observed Izuku. Although he had been training somewhat, she still considered him scrawny. From the time she had spent measuring him and conducting other tests, it was clear to her that he wasn't used to being around girls. His stuttering, flushed face, and tendency to look away, either at the floor or anywhere but at her, made that obvious. She handed him a GI to change into, and he stepped behind a curtain to get ready. Wanting to break the ice since they would be training together, Kendo decided to initiate conversation. So, Midoriya, what school do you go to? She asked, trying to ease the tension. 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐫 Junior High. What about you? He stammered. 𝐷𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐼 Junior High. From what I can see of your hands and body, you've been training, right? Yeah. I've been training for the UA entrance exam. Oh, no way. You're aiming for UA too. Kendo said, her excitement evident. Why yeah. It's my dream school. I've always wanted to attend, even though some people said it was impossible. But I'm still going to try my best. Kendo smiled at him. Yeah, people have told me my quirk is just one note, but I don't care. I love my quirk. I'm going to get into UA and become a hero. Just then, Izuku finished putting on his GI and smiled as he glanced at the Omnitrix. He stepped out from behind the curtain. So, how does it feel? I think I got the right size. It feels a little big, Izuku admitted, looking at himself in the mirror. Yeah, when I got my first GI, it felt way too big. But after a while, it fit perfectly. I guess. Now let's begin your training. First, we'll start with some stretches. Midoriya froze, a blank expression on his face. Stretches. With a girl. He looked at Kendo, taking in her figure, and gulped. Slapping his cheeks to shake off any impure thoughts, he followed Kendo out, determined to focus on the training ahead. They returned to their green cinnamon roll, which had just been judo flipped and crashed to the ground. Oh! Izuku groaned, rubbing his backside. Come on, Midoriya. Try harder. Kendo called out, her hands on her hips and a determined look on her face. Izuku lay on the ground for a moment, taking a deep breath before pushing himself up. He rubbed his butt, feeling a little defeated. For the past 3 hours, Kendo had been testing him to see how she could improve his skills. From their first fight, she knew he would need a lot of work. Kendo sighed, wiping sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand. She grabbed a towel, dabbed her face, and tossed a bottle of water to Izuku. Let's take a break. As they settled down, Izuku felt the perfect opportunity to ask a question that had been weighing on his mind. He fidgeted, scratching the back of his head. 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐵 Kendo, I was wondering, seeing the boy stutter and blush wasn't anything new to Kendo, but from everyone else's perspective, it looked like he was about to ask her out. Ooh, looks like the tomboy Kendo is finally getting a boyfriend, a voice teased from across the room. Kendo rolled her eyes and waved them off, turning back to Izuku, who was still fumbling for words. Why, you said you have a transformation quirk. I was wondering if you could show me some tricks. He looked up at her, his eyes wide with anticipation. Here. Is that all? Kendo replied, a playful smirk on her face. She set her bottle down, and suddenly her hand began to grow. Izuku's eyes widened in amazement. So, what do you want to know? How do you turn it back? I mean, how does your hand go back to its normal size? He glanced at the Omnitrix, then back at her. I've been trying to turn back to myself after I transform, but the only way is when I'm heavily exhausted. Oh. Well, it's not that complicated. I just think about wanting to go back, and I do it. She demonstrated, her hand shrinking down and then enlarging again effortlessly. Izuku nodded, a determined expression crossing his face. Just think about going back to myself. He stared at the Omnitrix, pressing the button with a mix of excitement and nervousness, drawing Kendo's curious gaze. What are you doing to your? She was cut off by a sudden burst of green light engulfing him, catching everyone's attention. Kendo instinctively covered her eyes, and when she opened them again, her mouth dropped in shock. Where a scrawny, timid boy had stood, now loomed a 12-foot-tall, four-armed alien. All she could manage was, "4 arms," the alien exclaimed, his voice booming. "Go back to Izuku, go back to Izuku, go back, Izuku," he muttered, scrunching his face in concentration as he struggled for a moment before slumping to the ground. That didn't work. Kendo's eyes bulged out, scanning the alien before her. A few girls watching the whole scene blushed, feeling a little turned on by the alien's imposing figure. '5 Midoriya. That's you, right? Do you mind turning back?" she asked, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "Yeah, I'm kind of stuck like this until I get tired," he replied, looking down with an apologetic expression. "Oh, when you said your quirk is a transformation type, I didn't expect this." "Yeah, 4 arms is pretty cool, he's good with strength, but fast track is better for speed." Fast track. "Oh, that's what I call my forms," he explained, a shy blush creeping across his alien cheeks. "Forms? Like, plural?" "Yeah. I can turn into 10 other heroes," he said, his tone filled with embarrassment. Kendo stared at him in disbelief, her eyes wide. This guy had an incredibly overpowered quirk, yet he was so timid. Usually, those with powerful quirks were the most arrogant JRKs, but he. "I don't get it. You have such an awesome quirk. How can someone like you, with a quirk like that, be so timid and, honestly, kind of wimpy?" She crossed her arms, a look of genuine confusion on her face. The alien flinched at her words, his posture deflating slightly. Sorry. No, it's refreshing. Most guys with a quirk as powerful as yours are kind of jackasses who look down on people with quirks like mine," Kendo said, glancing down at her hands, a hint of disappointment in her tone. "What? But I think your quirk is amazing," the alien exclaimed, bending down slightly to meet her gaze. "Your quirk is both offensive and defensive. You can subdue villains and protect bystanders." Kendo looked at the four-armed alien geeking out about her quirk, which made her laugh despite the fact that he looked like a freaking monster with muscles that would make All Might jealous. The alien was still Izuku, after all. As she observed him, she couldn't understand how someone with a quirk like that could have such low confidence in himself. Then she noticed the symbol of the Omnitrix on his wrist. "Hey, maybe try pressing that dial thingy," she suggested. "I've tried. Nothing happened," he replied, his voice still carrying that familiar hint of defeat. "Well, try it while using my advice, it might work," she encouraged, a playful smile on her face. 4 arms stood up and approached the dial. "Go back to Izuku," he muttered as he touched the dial. In a massive burst of green light, he transformed back into Izuku. To most of the girls' disappointment, the eye candy had just disappeared in a flash of light. Izuku looked at himself, relief flooding through him as he realized he was back to normal. "Hey, I'm me." "Thank you, Kendo." "No problem. Now let's get back to training. You need a lot of work. And hey, if you have time, I'd love to spar with that 4 arms guy," she said, her enthusiasm evident. Sure. No problem." Izuku replied, a slight blush creeping across his cheeks. As the day came to an end, Izuku headed home. Ever since he told All Might that he wished to learn some martial arts, the pro hero had immediately adjusted his plans. Within a week, every Tuesday and Thursday would be dedicated to martial arts training, while the other days would focus on building his body to prepare for One for All. While walking home, Izuku took a moment to write a new entry in his notebook. It was about Kendo and her quirk. He meticulously documented every detail and aspect, even if there wasn't too much to it. He found it a little weird, but he couldn't help himself. Kevin returned home, and what he saw made him drop his bag and feel his blood boil. His car was smashed to bits, a tag on it reading, "Freaks of 𝐒𝐽𝐽𝐽." Kevin dropped to his knees, instinctively absorbing the ground as black electricity crackled around him. Then he heard a voice that sounded eerily like his deceased father's. "What a shame." Kevin looked like he was about to lose it. This wasn't just a car, he had worked tirelessly for months for it. This was his ticket out of the slumps, his way to a new garage. His home, his car, everything was vandalized. You know what I find hilarious? The people who did this will probably suffer no consequences. There will be no punishment. No. What? I'll make them pay. If no one is going to do anything, it will be me. Me and Izuku will burn that school to the ground. He. Ha ha ha. His face twisted into an unhinged expression as he began to laugh. Black electricity with a red outline crackled around his body. When it was the afternoon around 3 p.m. that weekend, Izuku woke up early and began training to clean up the beach. Unbeknownst to him, he was being watched by his friend Kevin, who observed from afar. Just as Kevin was about to ask Izuku why he was training, he noticed something puzzling. The boy began fiddling with the watch on his wrist. "What are you doing?" Kevin wondered, his eyes widening as Izuku slammed down on the Omnitrix and was engulfed in a green flash, transforming into some sort of crab creature. "What the?" Kevin watched as Izuku, now in the form of Brainstorm, released electricity from his hands, lifting trash and stacking it into a pile. Moments later, Izuku pressed the dial again, turning back into himself as he started gathering the trash and running up the stairs where a thin, blonde man watched. Getting tired of standing by, Kevin decided to confront Izuku. He has a quirk. For how long? Since when? It must have been recent. There's no way he would go through that torment willingly, right? A malicious smile crept across his face. He has a quirk. If the two of us, yes. Young Midoriya, I see you've figured out how to turn back, All Might said. Izuku nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, thanks to Kendo, I was able to figure it out. She's amazing. She. Oh, is young Midoriya a ladies' man? All Might asked, a hint of fear in his voice. Please, for the love of God, don't be like your dad in that department. We almost ended up in a galactic war because alien women wanted a piece of him. No matter how many advances they made, he was always loyal to 𝐒𝐽𝐽. For her. Oh, no, sorry, All Might, but I doubt I could get a girlfriend if my life depended on it, Izuku said, sighing in relief. Izuku, a familiar voice called, making the two flinch. They turned to see Kevin Levin walking down the stairs. Kevin. What are you doing here? Izuku asked in a panicked tone, glancing at All Might, who met Kevin's gaze without flinching. I came to ask about that speed dude from yesterday, you know, the guy who saved my car from being totally trashed. He had the same symbol on his chest as your watch. But now I just saw you turn into that crab guy, so something tells me you were that speedster, right? Kevin said, glaring at him. Unable to lie, Izuku nodded. After a few minutes of silence, Kevin smirked. So you have a quirk. I thought you were quirkless. Well. Young Midoriya's quirk just came in, All Might interjected quickly. Apparently, it's a transformation type that allows him to change into multiple forms with unique powers. It laid dormant for a while, but after the sludge villain, gotcha. You transformed. Wait. But that was 3 months ago. It didn't show any signs until recently. We're still trying to figure it out, All Might added hastily. Oh, okay, so you know next to nothing about this overpowered quirk. All right. And who are you, skeleton dude? Kevin asked skeptically. I'm his trainer of sorts. All Might said quickly. Kevin nodded. Don't know why you're keeping it a secret, though. Midoriya's quirk is. Unlike others, as you can see, All Might explained. Dude has multiple forms. You don't see that every day, actually, like, ever. Maybe dual quirk users, but this. Kevin shook his head in disbelief. Exactly. We'd like to understand it ourselves before people start hounding him like animals, trying to figure him out. So please keep this information to yourself. Kevin shrugged, then put an arm around Izuku's shoulder, dragging him away from All Might. Oi! Izuku, how about you ditch this training for today and we hit the mall instead? I'm not sure about that. Come on, I've had a pretty bad day, and you owe me at least that much, Kevin said, making Izuku feel guilty for lying to his only friend. He turned back to All Might and bowed slightly. Sorry, Yagi-sensei, but I'll be canceling training today. This made Kevin smile to himself while All Might frowned slightly. I'll make up for it, don't worry. All Might sighed, understanding that if David found out Izuku was lying to him, he would want some time to talk privately. I understand, young Midoriya. Your friend probably has a lot of questions. I'll leave you too. Time skip and I slam down on the dial, and then I turn into one of 10 aliens. Izuku exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over. Aliens? Kevin asked, raising an eyebrow in disbelief. That's what I call them, Izuku stammered, his cheeks flushing slightly. So that blue cat-like thing at the school was you? Kevin inquired, trying to wrap his head around the concept. Aha! Izuku said, nodding nervously. Dude! You're the man. Kevin shouted, giving his friend a high five. You totally stopped those jackasses from messing up my car. We're friends, and that's what friends are for. Izuku replied, a proud smile spreading across his face. But as he glanced at Kevin, he noticed the devilish smile creeping across his friend's features. Here. All right. You know, with your new quirk and my own, we would make an unstoppable team, Kevin said, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Yeah, Izuku replied, clenching his fist in determination. We could make great heroes. But Kevin's smile faltered, and he turned serious. Heroes? Right. His tone caught Izuku off guard, making him tilt his head in confusion. Though, with you having a quirk now, it means you have to follow all those stupid quirk laws, Kevin added, a hint of frustration in his voice. Here. What do you mean? Izuku asked, puzzled. Well, you know that whole thing about running in to save someone who's in trouble. You can't exactly do that anymore, Kevin explained, his expression darkening. Midoriya furrowed his brow, trying to comprehend Kevin's words. Before he could respond, Kevin closed his eyes, lost in thought. It had been a week since his home was vandalized and his car destroyed, and he had made his declaration. During that time, he absorbed the quirks of a few people, not too flashy, just a hearing quirk from one guy and an improved vision ability from a pink-haired girl with dreadlocks. Once suddenly, he concentrated, hearing something that made him smile. Help! Izuku's heart raced at the sound. A cry for help was one of his few weaknesses. Let's turn this way. It's a shortcut, Kevin suggested, his eyes lighting up with a hint of excitement. Here. Sure, Izuku replied, trusting his friend. They both headed down the narrow alleyway, the atmosphere shifting as shadows loomed around them. Kevin remained silent, his expression serious. Izuku felt the urgency of their mission as they moved deeper into the alley. Then, his sharp ears picked up a feminine voice crying out, "Help!" Without hesitation, Izuku sprinted toward the sound, and Kevin followed, surprised at how much faster Izuku seemed to be moving. Must have been all that training, Kevin thought, determination pushing him forward. They arrived at a scene that made them stop in their tracks. A girl in a middle school uniform stood helplessly, her purple hair flowing around her as she faced a group of guys brandishing weapons. Ear jacks protruded from her ears, crackling with static. "Leave me alone," the girl shouted, her voice filled with defiance. "You're mutant, some. We're going to mess up that pretty face of yours." One of the thugs sneered. "Does it really take this many guys to beat up one girl?" she retorted, standing her ground. "Oh, we both know you aren't just any girl. What you did to our boy here made us really mad. Your boy is a real creep. Don't you know what no means?" She shot back. "Kyuka, are you still mad about the quirkless kid? Come on, he was just some nobody." One of the thugs laughed. "It was needless and cruel," she exclaimed, her determination unshaken. Kevin, watching from afar, whistled in disbelief. What were the chances he would come across someone like her? As they observed the thugs preparing to attack, 𝐒𝐽𝐽 didn't look scared. Instead, she seemed to be formulating a plan, though she clearly didn't know what to do next. Izuku immediately reached for the Omnitrix, but a hand stopped him. "What do you think you're doing?" Kevin questioned, his voice firm. "What am I doing? What are you doing?" Izuku looked at him pleadingly. "I have a quirk now. I can help. Now let me go." "Oh, I don't doubt you could take them if your transformations are what you told me they are. But you have a quirk now, meaning you have to follow our quirk laws." "What?" Izuku asked, confusion written all over his face. "You were quirkless. Of course, you wouldn't be aware of how harsh it is to use our quirks to harm others. And if UA finds out, they can't accept someone who breaks the laws so blatantly. You think this is just a game. One wrong move, and they'll label you a villain. You'll be blacklisted before you even get started on your hero journey. Why you not serious? I can't just stand by and, you have to. People who break the laws, regardless of their reasons, are considered villains. That's the society we live in. We have to turn a blind eye." Izuku felt conflicted as Kevin let go of his arm. He glanced at the girl pressed up against the wall. Her eyes may have shown bravery, but he could see the silent plea for help. "Someone save me." Without another thought, he slammed down on the Omnitrix. The green flash caught the attention of everyone nearby, including the thugs who were about to do God knows what to the girl. From the bright light, a ball of green slime flew through the air and landed between her and the thugs. "Goop!" Izuku exclaimed, transforming into the slimy alien Goop. Izuku exclaimed, transforming into the slimy alien. With a stretchy fist, Goop slammed one villain into the wall, leaving him stuck amidst a gooey residue. A thug swung at Goop, but the alien dodged effortlessly and countered with a slime WHP, sending the villain crashing to the ground. Meanwhile, a third villain snuck up from behind, only to have his ears assaulted by the girl's earjacks. Screaming in agony, he fell to his knees, receiving a swift kick to the face. As the dust settled, two more villains collided, their heads bloody, and crumpled to the ground. Kevin stepped forward, a smirk on his face. "Kevin, you helped me out," Izuku said, surprised. "But I thought you said you weren't interested in heroics." "I'll always have your back, Izuku," Kevin replied. "That's what friends are for." The girl approached, twirling her earphones. "Hey, thanks for saving me. You guys should go, don't want you getting in trouble for quirk usage. I'll handle the cops." Izuku nodded, transforming back into his human form. "No problem. Take care." As they left the girl to deal with the knocked-out thugs, now being arrested, Izuku and Kevin made their way to the bustling Kiyashi shopping mall. "Someone had to do it," Kevin said. "There were no heroes in sight. We had to take action and put them in their place. They needed to be punished. Who knows what they would have done to her if we just stood by and did nothing." "Yeah, but we still broke the law and ran from the scene," Izuku countered. "Would you prefer we stayed and got arrested?" Kevin asked, his tone firm. "That's exactly what would have happened." "Can't we say it was self-defense? I mean," Izuku began. Kevin cut him off. "The girl was self-defense, but we purposely stepped in looking for a fight. You can't keep thinking like that." "Thinking like what?" Izuku asked. "Playing by the rules will lead to success. That a hero will always be there to save you. Newsflash, the rules are just as useless as the heroes and teachers. Especially our teachers, who turn a blind eye to everything happening around them. And for what? Because you were born different. You didn't ask to be born quirkless, but how many times has this rotten world pushed you down? How many times were you beaten before I stepped in?" Izuku looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. He preferred to ignore his harsh treatment from others and put the worst times behind him. "You said you want to be a hero, right?" Kevin asked. Izuku nodded hesitantly, unsure where this was going. "What do heroes do?" Kevin pressed. "They protect people," Izuku replied. "True. But you know what else they do? They put villains to justice and hold them accountable for their actions." "Where are you going with this?" Izuku asked. Kevin didn't look up, continuing to drink before noticing his glass was almost empty. With a wave of his hand, a pink purse flew into his grasp. "Kevin! What are you doing?" Izuku exclaimed. Kevin rummaged through the purse, finding a cell phone. He examined it before tossing it to Izuku. "Hey, stop. Give that back." Izuku protested. "Give it back." "I don't think so," Kevin said, his tone laced with anger. "See, the way I see it, the world around us praises assholes like Bakugo and punishes us just for being born different. I say we fight back. We show everyone what we're capable of. We show the world why they shouldn't have messed with us." Kevin extended his hand in a handshake. "I've had your back all these years. Now have mine. Please, Izuku. What do you say, partner?" Izuku hesitated, considering the offer, when, "Hey!" The boys turned to see a girl with short brown hair, hazel eyes, and permanently flushed cheeks. Her distraught expression and accusatory finger targeted them. "Give it back. That's mine," she shouted, desperation edging her voice. Tears seemed imminent. Kevin immediately grabbed Izuku's arm and began running. The girl spotted the boys trying to flee and quickly tried to catch up to them. As she made it down the stairs and out into the street, she saw the two boys running away. Desperate, she pleaded with them, "Please give it back. That's the last money I have. My parents don't have much. Please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything." Her voice cracked as she tried to keep up with the boys. This caused Midoriya to turn toward the girl, but he was pulled by Kevin, who ripped open a manhole and leapt into it. Kevin sealed it behind them, leaving the girl struggling to open it. Tears began to prick at the corners of her eyes. "No," she whispered, and she stopped struggling, allowing herself to cry softly. As Midoriya walked through the sewers, he could hear the faint sobs of the girl. It broke his heart. He felt ashamed of himself and disgusted by his actions. "We went too far," he muttered. "Here." Kevin replied, not paying attention. "That girl was so distraught. We have to return it." "Oh. So you're not with me? We get to do anything, and if I want to keep this money, I will." "Kevin, we can't do this. We're acting like villains." "Oh, I see. I've had your back, but when I need yours, you'd rather take some cheap shots at someone you don't even know." "It's not like that, shut up. I'm tired of that school." Kevin's face began to look more unhinged with every word that came out. Yeah, I'll end them. I'll show them what a real villain is like." "Kevin, stop. You need to calm down." He looked at Izuku with a wild expression. "Or what?" I'll stop you myself." Kevin's face morphed into a mask of anger as he absorbed the ground beneath him. Having absorbed a fire quirk earlier, his hands ignited with flames. Midoriya quickly dialed the Omnitrix and slammed down on the device. "Amphibian. I've been protecting you since we were 10. Don't think I won't beat you to a pulp if you get in my way." Amphibian launched a powerful lightning bolt toward Kevin, sending him flying and slamming into a wall, scorching mark on his chest. Kevin quickly blasted himself toward the boy, his hands morphing into maces. He swung them at the alien, who dodged the attacks. With each swing passing through him, Amphibian wrapped his tentacles around Kevin, sending a torrent of electricity through him. Kevin grabbed the tentacles and screamed in pain as he absorbed the energy before they were blasted apart. Amphibian widened his eyes in horror as Kevin, a mixture of amphibians, flew above and made his way down the street. "You wanna play hero?" he said with a malicious tone as he concentrated on directing the blast of electricity toward the railways. Amphibian's eyes widened as an explosion ensued. As a train approached rapidly, Kevin flew into the power lines. "Ah, man." Amphibian watched in absolute horror as the train, moving at breakneck speed, hurtled toward disaster. Kevin was somewhere out there, and he felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. "No. This is my fault," he shouted, transforming into Izuku as he frantically searched for his phone. Panic surged through him when he realized it wasn't there. CRP. The train was racing closer to catastrophe, and he felt utterly powerless. Kevin had gained his powers because of him, and now innocent lives were in jeopardy. I need to save them. This is my fault. Desperation clawed at his chest, but then he recalled 𝗔𝗵𝐵's words. He looked at the Omnitrix, took a deep breath, and slammed down on the dial. In a burst of green light accompanied by a deafening sonic boom, he transformed into a black and blue blur, surging forward faster than he had ever run before. As he neared the train, he blasted through the gates and came to a stop. And what he saw made him freeze. His bullies, his class, and the girl who made him realize no one will ever want to date a quirkless loser by playing a cruel joke on him, not only the public but the whole school would never let him live it down, were quivering in fear as Kevin stood over his hands ablaze with flames, electricity crackling around them. He transformed back and slowly walked up to him. He transformed back so his friend saw a friendly face. Kevin. Oh, Izuku. Don't worry, they won't hurt us anymore, they won't do anything anymore. Wait. Midoriya's here. We're all dead, what is the quirkless loser going to do? Kevin growled in anger. See. These bestias deserve what's coming to them. Kevin, this isn't the way. We can go back to where things were. 3 No. Everyone flinched at the harsh tone as Kevin had a harsh tone as he walked closer to the helpless students. Everyone watched in widened awe as suddenly Midoriya, the quirkless kid, slammed down on the Omnitrix, and what was 4-armed alien. He grabbed Kevin from behind and he let a massive amount of electricity. Midoriya. Kevin, stop. I don't want to hurt you. Everyone looked out of confusion but also some relief as 4 arms grabbed him from behind to stop him from frying his tormentors as he redirected his blast upwards. As he grabbed his arm, as a surge of energy flooded through Kevin as he turned red, his arms began to bulge. His arm bulges out before punching off and landing an uppercut and sending the alien flying back. He soon transformed into a 4 arms, but not exactly, they were different. He looked a more poor 𝗵𝗲. Izuku, seems I'll have to beat you to a pulp so I can have my way with these animals. 4 arms cracked his knuckles, rising to his feet. Kevin's eyes widened, then shook his head in disbelief. The air thickened with tension as the 2 foes faced off. An unsettling silence fell, punctuated only by Kevin's maniacal cackle. Then, they charged. Their fists collided with a deafening crash, sending shockwaves through the ground. The earth shuddered, cracks spreading outward like spider webs. The sound echoed through the courtyard. The students stumbled backward, terrified. The ground beneath their feet trembled. Kevin unleashed a vicious uppercut, but Midoriya absorbed the blow, shaking it off. The impact sent Midoriya's feet scraping backward, leaving deep gashes in the pavement. With a counterattack, Midoriya landed a crushing right hook. The punch connected with a meaty smack, sending Kevin flying across the courtyard. Kevin crashed to the ground, sliding several feet before coming to a stop. The earth trembled beneath him. Kevin recoiled, stunned. 4 arms follow-up punch was intercepted by Kevin, who grasped the alien's wrist. Kevin delivered a savage headbutt, crushing 4 arms' nose. The sound of crunching bone echoed. The force sent 4 arms stumbling, disoriented. Kevin seized the opening, unleashing a flurry of haymakers. Right hooks and left hooks rained down upon 4 arms, each blow landing with devastating impact. Bakugo's cronies watched in awe as the boy they had tormented for years fought for their lives. Why, one of them whispered, incredulous. How could the quirkless kid, once a punching bag, now shield them from harm? The same boy they had insulted, tripped, and kicked, now risked everything to protect them. Why go so far for us? Why protect us? We tormented, we bullied for your entire life. We mocked, bullied, hurt you in every inhuman way we could do to you. So, why go so far for us? 4 arms stumbled, battered and bleeding, one eye swollen shut. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and teeth, his vision blurring. Kevin's next punch hurtled toward him, but 4 arms caught it, his tetramand instincts surging like a torrent. Because 4 arms gasped, blood bubbling from his lips. Despite how much I despise every single one of you. Despite the hell you made my life. With a snarl, 4 arms unleashed a vicious uppercut, fueled by rage and determination. The punch connected with a sickening crunch, sending Kevin flying across the courtyard. 4 arms leapt into the air, all 4 limbs raised. He slammed back down, unleashing a shockwave that shattered the ground. The impact created a crater, swallowing Kevin whole. 4 arms descended upon Kevin, a whirlwind of limbs. "I'll save you," he bellowed, spinning Kevin around with merciless force. Kevin's screams were drowned out by the sound of shattering. See it beginning to tilt dangerously off the rails. The shrieks of terrified passengers filled the air. Without hesitation, he burst into the train, shattering the glass doors with a forceful kick. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the compartment as he charged inside, his heart racing. He scanned the car, spotting a woman frozen in fear, her eyes wide as the train continued its perilous descent. In a flash, he lunged forward, grabbing her around the waist. The moment he touched her, he pushed off the ground with incredible force. The train tilted more sharply, the screech of metal against metal ringing in his ears. He felt the shift in gravity as the world outside began to blur. Ignoring the danger, he leaped through the shattered doorway, a rush of wind following him as they soared into the air. With a powerful move of his legs, he propelled them away from the train just as it began to plummet down the incline. Fast Track quickly got back into the train and began rushing everyone out as the sound of it smashing onto the street below echoed, flames raging from the explosions. He darted back inside, grabbing the final passenger, a girl with shoulder-length bob-shaped hair swept to her right, wearing a middle school uniform. As they landed safely on the ground, he rolled to absorb the impact, cradling the girl in his arms. "Hey, are you all right?" he asked, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The girl opened her eyes to find herself gazing into piercing green cat-like eyes. A warm feeling enveloped her as she looked into those eyes, making her heart race. She felt safe in his embrace and was a little disappointed when he gently pulled away to grab her shoulders. "Okay," he said, and in an instant, he blasted off again, the wind whipping through her hair as she watched her hero vanish into the distance. Onlookers marveled at the sight of this speedster, saving everyone without seeking credit. Someone captured the incredible rescue on camera, only managing to glimpse the black and blue blur darting through the chaos. "You should have seen him." Meanwhile, Fast Track ran aimlessly, lost in thought, his breath coming in heavy gasps. He remembered 𝐒𝐴𝐺𝐵's words, "True. But you know what else they do? They put villains to justice. They hold them accountable for their deplorable actions." Suddenly, he felt a surge of panic. He was missing his phone. A realization hit him like a punch to the gut as he narrowed his eyes. He probably notified them using my phone for a fight, knowing the quirkless kid was about to get beaten up without Kevin Levin around, an opportunity they can't afford to miss. "Here's at old Drea," he said with widened eyes, as he ran off at full speed towards the school. Concrete as he was hurled through the air, crashing into the distance. The bridge collapsed, swallowing Kevin's tortured form. 4 arms stood victorious, his chest heaving. The green light of the Omnitrix faded, revealing Izuku Midoriya, battered and bruised. His shirt was stained crimson, knuckles split and bruised. His face was a mess of cuts and swelling. As Izuku stumbled toward Kevin's distant screams, his legs buckled. His vision blurred, and he collapsed. Exhaustion claimed him, refusing to let him rise. Izuku's last thought was of Kevin, his friend, his only friend. A few hours later, Midoriya opened his eyes to see the lights above him. "All Might," he murmured, still trying to orient himself. "Young Midoriya, you're awake." "That's good," All Might said with a reassuring smile. "How long?" Izuku asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "A few hours. I knew something bad was happening, especially when the news reported a black and blue blur moving at high speed saved a train full of people. Your mother was worried. And from what I can gather, she isn't aware of your quirk," All Might explained. Izuku's expression shifted to one of deep concern. "What about Kevin?" All Might fell silent for a moment, the weight of the situation hanging heavy in the air. "There's no sign of Kevin. He seems to have disappeared." Tears began to prick at Izuku's eyes as he broke down. "All Might, I couldn't save him. My friend was suffering so much. And I couldn't save him. How can I call myself a hero if I can't save one friend?" He sobbed, the anguish in his voice echoing through the room. Young Midoriya, All Might began, standing tall as he looked at the boy. I heard a little about what happened. How some of the kids bullied you for being quirkless. Izuku remained silent, unable to respond. Today's events prove just how much you are the right person for this quirk. You protected people who saw nothing but dirt, not to show off, but because it was the right thing to do. And I'm very proud of you, young man. A small smile crept onto Izuku's face just as the door opened. A policeman and his mother stepped through. Hello, I'm Detective 𝗧𝗵𝗲. We came to discuss a few things. First, you will not be punished for the fight with 𝗵𝗃 the detective said, his tone serious yet calm. I'm not, but I broke the law, Izuku protested. Yes, but we can chalk it up to self-defense. Regarding your status as quirkless, though you should update that, you are acquitted from our laws, fortunately. Since you probably weren't given any quirk counseling, you'll need to attend mandatory sessions. But besides that, there are no legal punishments. Izuku nodded, grateful as he thanked the detective. However, we had to investigate the school, especially after your fight with 𝗵𝗃. Until then, you have 2 days off from school. The detective bowed slightly before leaving. Inko walked over to her son, her eyes puffy from crying. Hey, Mom, I'm fine, he said, trying to reassure her. Why didn't you tell me you had a quirk, Izuku, she asked, her voice trembling. I'm still learning about it myself, and I didn't want to make you worry. Oh, Izuku, you're my baby. Regardless of whether you have a quirk, I'm always going to worry. You're my pride and joy. She pulled him into a tight hug, and he embraced her back, feeling comforted. As he looked at the counter, his gaze landed on a small pink flip phone resting there. The phone was damaged and somewhat melted from the day's events. He stared at it, guilt washing over him as he thought of the girl who had suffered because of him. He needed to make it up to her. He wiped his tears away and promised himself, I promise to tell you everything about my quirk, just when I know all the functions of it. Inko nodded before noticing the skeleton man. Hello, she said to the skeleton man. All Might bowed, greeting Mrs. Midoriya. Hello. How do you know my son? Young Midoriya is a rare case. Having basically multiple quirks is something you don't see well. Ever. Multiple quirks. As in more than one. As in 10 quirks. Each very powerful, so I've been training him regularly. Oh, so you who my baby sees every day every time he goes out with that excited smile. I think he's going to see All Might. The women chuckled at the idea. Izuku and All Might glanced at each other, and Midoriya just whistled innocently. 2 days later. As Midoriya returned to school, he took a deep breath in as he walked into the halls of his school prepared for the pointing of the insults that would come his way instead of what he received. Was admiration. People were still pointing at him, but instead of insults, he heard whispers of him being their hero, and he was kinda cute. Apparently, the rumors of him fighting Kevin with his new quirk spread like wildfire. Some people like Bakugo refused to believe the fact that Deku had a quirk. Seriously, I was there. Midoriya was freaking amazing. You should have seen him. FN stupid that quirkless nerd can't do SHT. All of must have inhaled something that made hallucinate so bad you think Deku has a quirk. Whatever man, I'm just saying you should watch out, you may have some serious competition for 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐳. As he ignored him, not taking his words seriously, which he would regret in a couple of months when the results came in. Izuku walked to his locker and what he found surprised him. His locker was clean, no it was spotless, and everything written was scrubbed right off. He opened his locker and a letter fell out. He recognized the handwriting immediately, it was the girl who broke his heart. Thank you for everything, it probably wasn't easy fighting the guy who didn't treat me like SHT. I cleaned your locker. It probably won't make up for things, but at least I could do it as an apology for. So I'm sorry for everything. Izuku looked at words as some tears prickled at the corner of his eyes. Looking at the letter, I may not ever forget, hell I may not even forgive them, but at least I can move forward. I refuse to let what happened here define me. I refuse to be Deku. But I'm not Deku. I don't know who I am, but I'm not that useless quirkless kid from before. Midoriya. He turned to see Yubi. He was the guy with the finger quirk. He had known him and Kaken for since they were kids. Listen. Thanks for saving my life. What we did was so uncool, and I'm sorry. He bowed as he apologized. Midoriya just gave a sad smile. It's fine. Don't worry. As he continued left, reassuring Yubi water was under the bridge. He thought about the girl. He had stolen all that money, and after repairing her phone he planned on tracking her down and paying her back, but he somehow needed to make money. As he sat down in class he noticed something on a classmate's desk. They were conversing about something. Izuku couldn't help but notice the flyer. 𝐻 mind if I see that? The two boys turned to Midoriya before handing the flyer. Plus, tough enough to be a champion. Those with strength quirks compete in an all-out brawl for 10,000 grand. That should be more than enough. Midoriya looked at the pamphlet before the Omnitrix that glowed green as a smile crept to his face. All Might stood at a trash-filled beach. Despite its appearance, the place was slowly improving. Soon, young Midoriya, you will dash. His thoughts were quickly interrupted by a shout. All Might. Izuku Midoriya came running toward him, clutching some pamphlets and breathing heavily. All Might, remember when I told you about that girl? The one you technically robbed and said you'd do anything to find and repay. Midoriya nodded rapidly. Well, when Brainstorm repaired her phone. Young Midoriya, I saw what you did to that phone. I'm not sure if we can call it repaying her, more like enhancing it. Alright. But I could pinpoint where the signals were coming from. I could pinpoint her location. A little creepy, but if it were anyone else, I'd be concerned. So, I take it you need money now. Midoriya nodded eagerly. And I have the perfect idea to make money quick. And he appeared to be fiddling with something in his hands. He took an interest in the conversation, eyeing the boy. Izuku nodded nervously. Yes, I know. But I'm not actually applying for myself. The prize money will go to me, but I'm entering on behalf of my client. Client? The man's tone was skeptical, clearly doubting Midoriya's story. Yes. I'm his manager. The man shrugged. All right, kid. So, I assume you'll be signing on behalf of your client. After a few signatures and getting through the process, Midoriya glanced at the paper in his hand. I can't believe that actually worked, he muttered to himself as they walked inside. Flashback over. The sun had gone down a while, 𝐒𝐭 had been fast asleep. Izuku looked at the time and got out of bed and began quietly moving the corridors of his apartment, especially not to wake his mother. Even with a quirk, my mom still treats me like fragile glass. If she found out that I was about to an underground fighting arena, she would definitely tell me not to do it. As he was at the door, put on his iconic red shoes, closed the door behind him slowly, and then began running in the dark night to fight against bigger, probably more experienced people. Yeah. I'm gonna die. Midoriya walks through the dark halls, a bright light at the end of the tunnel. He walked through. And what he saw made his jaw drop at all the people who were watching the fight. Right now, with rock skin, I was facing off an alligator man, with a final punch knocking him out the lights of his opponent. Whoa! At least I'll be able to study some quirks, he thought to himself. From the crowds, he thought he might have seen some pros, or at least that's why he thought they weren't in hero costumes, so he couldn't tell. Ladies and gentlemen, next up we have the immovable object against. Here. Wait, is this right? This is his name. It sounds like a 10-year-old made it up. What do you mean I'm on the MIC? Oh right. 4 arms. Ladies and gentlemen. The audience roared in excitement as a 12-foot tall, almost looking like a sumo warrior, entered the arena flexing and roaring. Where is this so-called 4 arms? I want my stepping stone to victory to enter the fight. The audience cheered in excitement, a woman eating a carrot, and she had white hair. A white bunny ears as she looked at the arena. The announcer noticed Midoriya, who was going to transform in his locker room, and decided to bring attention to the boy. Hey, kid. Where the hell is your warrior? Izuku flinched back as the 4 arms dialed up. He was just heading in to transform and come back out, but now all eyes. He is just a bit nervous. I'll go and get him. He squeaked out. The immovable object grabbed the 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐵. Don't bother if he's as much a beach as you are. This going to be easy as hell, don't embarrass yourself, go home beach. Midoriya felt small, well smaller than usual, but when people were laughing he went in all might and the crowd wanted to give his successor some support, but the bunny girl could only scoff, kids eaten alive. I feel bad for the wuss. As Midoriya left into the dark tunnel with the laughter behind him, he quickly slammed down on the Omnitrix. As from the dark tunnel came something made everyone fall silent, a red 12 feet with muscles that made All Might look wimpy as he flexed. And judging by how many arms, he needed no introduction. As he leapt into the arena cracking his knuckles. The name 4 arms. I heard you call my manager and me a beach. Let's see who's the beach is after I'm done. When the man quickly fell into a rage as he charged at the 4-armed alien, he dodged the attack easily before bringing his fist like a hammer, and the man's head was the nail, a blow sending him to the ground and cracking the ground. The man didn't get up from the punch as 4 arms stood with 1 foot stood atop his fallen foe. The referee quickly went to the fallen foe and began counting to the 3. 1, 2, 3, the winner 4 arms. A moment of silence as the audience broke into cheers. A man in the audience wearing a bird mask. Here. Maybe we can find some new recruits for the Yakuza. 2. A man grew a sadistic smile as he watched 4 arms leave the arena. Oh, man, something tells me this is the guy. The guy I have been waiting for. Will you finally defeat me, 4 arms? Will you give me a battle to the death? For the next 2 hours, 4 arms would dominate his opponents, fighting people of all shapes and sizes, the battle either knocking out or pinning them down. A man beside couldn't but watch the alien with interest. His movements were sloppy, the only reason he has gotten to the quarterfinals this far was his stupid strength. He squinted his eyes before sneaking away, a grin grew on his face. Teach. Can't let some stupid kid die. Plus he reminds me of another reckless idiot. All Might, young man, you're doing splendidly, but your true opponents are coming up and these guys are no joke. 4 arms stared down his opponent. He was a crabman of sorts. He lunged at 4 arms, he claw clapped around his neck, he ripped him off before punching him through the arena. The referee and 4 arms looked at each other before shrugging. 4 arms left the arena, waving goodbye to the crowd. The announcer was pretty firm that he should show the crowd some when he left and entered the arena. 4 arms took a look at the bracket, realizing he would only be fighting after some of his opponents made it to the quarterfinals. He entered his assigned room, and due to his winning and becoming a fan favorite, he was given some privileges. Now Midoriya may not admit, but this felt nice. He tapped the Omnitrix dial, his entire body engulfed in a green flash. Well, isn't this a surprise? Izuku, now back to normal, turned to the unknown voice. He turned to a man who was giving a grin that was reminiscent of All Might. If All Might was run down, an insane, add in a sprinkle of looking like a hobo and you would get this man. Weird, I thought your registry said. He handed the paper to All Might, who raised an eyebrow before looking at the pamphlet, then back at Midoriya. The next words out of his mouth summed it all up. Young Midoriya, are you nuts? Midoriya flinched. Do you not think it's a good idea? Oh, it's a genius idea. However, this competition is an underground fighting arena, which isn't publicized, which is good, but there are a few issues, my boy. Midoriya nodded, listening closely. First, there are people with strength quirks. You're still registered as quirkless, and there's no way they'll let you fight. Second, while this perfectly legal fighting arena is allowed, it has some questionable participants. People with fighting quirks often feel the urge to fight, sometimes to the death. These battles exist as a way to relieve those urges. It's how villains like Muscular are prevented from causing more problems. I know the risks, but I'm not just doing this for the girl, but for myself. Hey. All Might, you said the best teacher is experience. What better experience than a battle arena? All Might just stared at the boy for a moment before giving a heavy sigh. Vilgax is rumored to be getting back up. If he comes to Earth, the first-year training at UA won't be enough. You need to engage with people who will want to kill you to at least be able to stand your ground against that murderous aura he exudes. And it's not like you're going to experience a villain attack at UA. He chuckled slightly at the thought. Too all right. I still think this is a questionable idea. I know, but I can't just let this go. That girl begged us, and I'm going to earn the money. I'll fight in the tournament and win. A few days passed, and the all-out brawl was about to begin. Izuku had applied the day before. Flashback. Izuku Midoriya stood in line next to All Might, who was in his skinny form. They were now in front of the applicant manager, who was reviewing Midoriya's files. He glanced between the file and Midoriya. You do realize this is a strength quirk tournament, right? We allow people with other types of quirks or mutant abilities if we think they'll make things interesting. But quirkless participants are strictly forbidden. Sorry, kid. As the manager spoke, a man passing by caught sight of them. He was smoking a cigarette, dressed in a green overcoat, boots, and cargo briefs. You were quirkless. It seems to me you have a quirk. The man sat down and began eating his food. Who the hell is this guy? He kinda looks All Might. He took a good look at the man again. He looks like the hobo version of All Might. The man helping himself to the place's food, enjoying them to his heart content. Listen, kid, I don't know what's your reason for being here, but you should back out. Here. Look, you're not half-bad fighter. But you don't have inform or fighting experience. Izuku clenched his fist. I know that. The only reason I'm even this far is my strength. But I'm not backing down. So if you just told me to quit, then you can just leave. The man looked and saw the boy's resolve in his eyes. But I can't back down. I know my next opponents are basically monsters, but I refuse to quit without trying. You do realize one of them is known for killing his opponents in one punch, others just beg for mercy, but you. His face grew into a smile. Guess I'm just a sucker for optimistic kids. You got probably about 2 hours before you'll have to go back, so I'm gonna beat some lessons into you. Izuku gulped in fear. I don't think that's a good idea, plus I don't even know you. The man smiled. I'm a Naruhata vigilante. People call me Knuckle Duster. One Midoriya's eyes bulged out, his jaw dropped as he looked at the man. He didn't know if he should geek out or call the police. Why, you're the Knuckle Duster. The Knuckle Duster I've seen on the web, and some of your fights you're incredible, though I couldn't figure out your quirk. I'm not what it is. Is it a strength? I've seen you take down guys far larger than you. The boy began to mutter. The man quickly chopped on the head with an O. Midoriya broke out of his muttering storm. No time for that. We got stuff to do, kid. I prefer not seeing your splattered head all over the arena. Within those hours, Knuckle Duster taught him some forms and beat some common battle strategies. Izuku walked out of the training room and left for his next fight. Now for the fan favorite, you love him. You wanna see him beat some, but it's 4 arms. 4 arms stood against an opponent that was larger than him, not by much but enough that the opponent looked down on him. He raised his arms before throwing them down. 4 arms acting quickly rolled from the attack as he impacted the ground. A massive dust cloud ensued, obscuring the opponent as well. He looked around trying to find 4 arms as he leapt into the air, and he landed Giant Man's shoulder. 4 arms wrapped his arms around its neck and began checking him. The villain tried to get him off, his opponent smacking on the walls repeatedly to get him off, but the alien didn't budge, instead tightened his hold. Soon, the man stopped running through walls to get him off. His eyes rolled to the back of his head, and he walked a bit before collapsing to the ground, landing on his back. To 4 arms' displeasure, man with a thumb that echoed throughout 4 arms, using his feet as leverage, tossed the big guy right off him. 4 arms breathing as the audience roared in excitement. All Might watching in the stands clapped. Demon kid, are you ever going to stop impressing me? And with that, 4 arms comes out with another victory, choking his villain out. The announcer said. Some people had been recording the fights with phones and had been posting them on TikTok or YouTube. This unfortunately would be bad for our green. Ain't nothing legal-wise, but Kendo had woken up and walked downstairs to drink some water. She found her mouth watching something on her phone. Hey, it's Suka having a late-night snack, sweetie. Yeah, just some water and maybe an apple. What are you watching? She said as she was picking an apple, sniffing it before shrugging it and taking a bite of it. Oh, just some footage of an underground fighting arena. No way, I totally forgot that was happening today. Hopefully I can watch some good footage before they take it down. So who are some of the fighters? Well, there's rapper the immovable object, Mr. Poker. Hey, I remember seeing those. Rapper is totally insane. I feel sorry for anyone going against him. She chuckled a little. His next opponent will be a new fight known as Four Arms. She dropped her apple, her face expressionless, as if someone told her puppy was kicked as she admittedly freaked out. What? Kendo's mother looked at her in confusion before her daughter grabbed her shoulders. Red skin, 4 arms, 4 green eyes. Kendo's mother blinked before answering, yeah. Itsuka inhaled before exhaling. She ran off to her room. She came out with some jeans and a t-shirt with some exercise shoes and ran out of the house. Her mother tried stopping her. Hey, it's a school night. Itsuka. He better not get killed before so I can kill him myself. That idiot. Itsuka had thought as she began running where the tournament should be held. Two back with Izuku Midoriya had turned back drinking some water and waiting for his next opponent. To his honor, he watched as his next opponent made his opponent beg for mercy as he cried just after one punch. Izuku gulped in fear as Rapper tossed him out of the ring. Midoriya took a deep breath before doing some light stretches. Suddenly the door to his room was opened with a powerful force. Midoriya flinched by the sudden action. He looked to see his opponent, who looked at him in confusion. Kid, do you know where Four Arms is? Izuku began sweating. Sorry, he's not giving autographs right now. The man just looks at him in more confusion. You're his manager, right? How the hell did you get a guy like to work for you, scrawny? Izuku before he could ask any more questions. What do why you want? Nothing, just tell Four Arms he better not hold back. I want a good battle. A fight that will get my blood boiling. Yeah. A battle to the death. Izuku widened as he gulped in fear. To the death. Not sure Four Arms wants that. He said with a nervous tone. He definitely doesn't want that. Whatever, give Four Arms that message to me. See you around, scrawny dude. Rapper waved goodbye before leaving through the door. Izuku just looked worried and terrified as a bead of sweat ran down his face. Then. Our next match is about to begin. Rapper vs Four Arms. Midoriya felt like he should run. He could find a different way to find a way to give money to Uraraka, but I can't keep running away. I can't run away from my problems. Back then I used to get into the fights and I didn't win. I ran away a lot. But now. In the arena, everyone began to watch in anticipation. All Might looked absolutely terrified. Kendo, who was trying her hardest to save her pupil from facing Rapper, a known guy who had been killed with his bare hands. And the villain speaking had a psychotic grin looking at the opposite side for our hero to come and fight. Then everyone heard the stomps as Four Arms walked in with a determined look on his face. Rapper and Four Arms stared each other down. Everyone could feel the anticipation coming from these two fighters. My manager says you want to fight to death. Sorry, but I'm not a killer. Come on, man. You're the guy I have been waiting for. Right now, it's me and you. Right here, right now. As the bell rang, Rapper immediately shot towards Four Arm. His speed surprised the alien as he had his fist pegged back before throwing his fist towards the alien. Four Arms raised his arms in shield position and the punch sent the alien flying back, his feet dragging on the ground as he slammed down into the wall with a boom. A moment of silence. The grunting could be heard as Four Arms pulled himself from the crater on the wall. Raised his fists. Spit out some buildie, is that all you got? The audience roared. Not as loudly as Rapper as he charged. Four Arms dodged the attack before delivering an uppercut, grabbing his arm, tossing him onto the other side. Rapper pulled himself as Four Arms from atop raised all 4 of his arms and slammed the down, but Rapper dodged the attack before pinging back his fist and throwing a punch that landed on Four Arms' face, who quickly recovered and grabbed his hand, and then grabbing his head and slamming it into the ground. Rapper managed to escape the grip and backflip to the other side. As they began launching blow after blow towards the alien, and the whole time the fight probably was around 5 minutes, but he couldn't help but wonder, what am I feeling right now? You feel it, don't you? Rapper said while wiping his blood. Your blood is pumping. Your instincts are screaming at you. Your heart is beating like never before. I haven't felt this way in a long time. So now me and you, let's finish this. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling so excited. I can't stop smiling. I can't explain it, but I know what I want is. One forearms wiped the BLD from his mouth. He didn't know why, but he smiled. Rapper's grin only grew. As a small could find a different way to find a way to give money to Uraraka, but I can't keep running away. I can't run away from my problems. Back then I used to get into the fights and I didn't win. I ran away a lot. But now. Too, in the arena everyone began to watch in anticipation. All Might looked absolutely terrified. Kendo, who was trying her hardest to save her pupil from facing Rapper, a known guy who had been killed with his bare hands. And the villain speaking had a psychotic grin looking at the opposite side for our hero to come and fight. Then everyone heard the stomps as Forearms walked in with a determined look on his face. Rapper and Forearms stared each other down. Everyone could feel the anticipation coming from these two fighters. My manager says you want to fight to death. Sorry, but I'm not a killer. Come on, man. You're the guy I have been waiting for. Right now, it's me and you. Right here, right now. As the bell rang, Rapper immediately shot towards Forearm. His speed surprised the alien as he had his fist pegged back before throwing his fist towards the alien. Forearms raised his arms in shield position and the punch sent the alien flying back, his feet dragging on the ground as he slammed down into the wall with a boom. A moment of silence, the grunting could be heard as Forearms pulled himself from the crater on the wall. Raised his fists. Spit out some buildie, is that all you got? The audience roared. Not as loudly as Rapper as he charged. Forearms dodged the attack before delivering an uppercut, grabbing his arm, tossing him onto the other side. Rapper pulled himself as Forearms from atop raised all four of his arms and slammed the down, but Rapper dodged the attack before pinging back his fist and throwing a punch that landed on Forearms' face, who quickly recovered and grabbed his hand, and then grabbing his head and slamming it into the ground. Rapper managed to escape the grip and backflip to the other side. As they began launching blow after blow towards the alien, and the whole time the fight probably was around 5 minutes, but he couldn't help but wonder, what am I feeling right now? You feel it, don't you? Rapper said while wiping his BLD. Your BLD is pumping. Your instincts are screaming at you. Your heart is beating like never before. I haven't felt this way in a long time. So now me and you, let's finish this. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling so excited. I can't stop smiling. I can't explain it, but I know what I want is. One Forearms wiped the BLD from his mouth. He didn't know why, but he smiled. Rapper's grin only grew. As a small laugh came from Forearms. Come at me with all you got. Rapper, with hesitation, charged towards Forearms. The fists collided and with a boom. An explosion of fists, the two were rapidly beating the ground beneath the feet cracked as his fist carried the weight of two relentless warriors refusing to go down without a fight. BLD spilled through the arena, and Miruko within the stands was grinning like a lunatic wanting a piece of the action. She liked her lips staring at the four-armed alien. Ding, I'm gonna have so much fun with you. 3 Oh man, you're something else, I can't effin' feel my arms. Forearms didn't say anything as Rapper was weakening. He was being pushed back, his arms were giving out. Then with the right hook and then uppercut that shook Rapper to his core, he couldn't move his arm anymore. Rapper looked at Forearms, unable to continue. Finish me. Forearm raised his fist before slamming his fist to his head and planting to the ground with a shockwave cracking the ground beneath. Even though Rapper would have preferred he ended him, he stuck to his morale and didn't end his life. There was a moment of silence. He beat Rapper. No one ever beats Rapper. Who the hell is this guy? As then Forearms stood atop Rapper's fallen body, he raised his fist in the air. The referee pulled out his moment of stun run and began slapping the ground. 1, 2, 3. Forearms wins. They roared in excitement. Forearms was in the infirmary. A woman with pink hair began to treat him. Oh, man, it's so hard keeping this form. The woman's hands glowed green as the alien began to feel his injuries and bruises heal up. She wiped some sweat from her head. He was handed his money and looked at it with pride. All right, you're free to go. Forearms stood up and began walking to his room when he suddenly was stopped. Hey! Forearms looked side to side. From the feminine voice he looked down to see Miruko. One, she might not be in her hero costume, but he could recognize heroes a mile away, a skill All Might found impressive and terrifying at the same time. "You pretty good out there," she said, poking his chest. His fast was a blushing mess. "Or, is the big guy shy? How cute. You know you would make a great punching sidekick. Why you don't usually have sidekicks or taken in turns because they hold you back." Miruko is a little impressed. "Or, seems like you know your stuff. So what's your story?" Her questioning was stopped by the beeping of the Omnitrix. He began to walk away. "Sorry, I gotta go." He was grabbed by his shirt. "Oh, no, you aren't going anywhere, but seeing you fight got me too." With a massive green flash, she was surprised the weight that she was tucking had significantly declined. She looked to see Midoriya. "Hey." With one hand, she released the boy before roughly slamming him into the wall. "Okay kid, start talking. I thought you were his manager." Izuku gulped. "Well, I'm registered quirkless." "Quirkless? Boy, your life probably scared." Midoriya had a dark aura around him. "I mean, it's true, but you didn't have to say it." She put the boy down. It was surprising to find a top pro hero. She may have looked shorter than him, but I swear the way she carried herself made her feel like she was far taller than him. "Well, you're obviously not quirkless. What gives?" "I mean, I was, or I thought I was till a few weeks ago, so I thought I could pick up some money and experience before going to UA." "Wow, you're kinda crazy. I like that. When you get into UA, if you impress me, I might be generous and give you an internship." It wouldn't because you want to beat me up, would it? I mean, you are known for being a battle-crazy maniac." Too, she just laughed, smiling at the boy. "See you around, kid. Don't worry, when I'm done, I'll beat the wimpiness out of you." Izuku gulped before watching the hero leave and gulped. "Why does everyone I meet lately call me wimpy?" He entered his locker room, hoping for no more surprises. He was wrong. As he entered, he found a couple of people in bird masks sitting in his waiting room. "Hello, I'm Kai Chisaki." 3. Izuku gulped. "Hello. We were hoping to meet with 4 L, you're his manager, right? A little young, aren't you? And apparently, you're quirkless. You're the most clean, not inflicted with this quirk disease. You're lucky." 2. Midoriya was sweating. "Thanks. I guess. We have a proposition for you. Will 4, specifically we want you to join the Yakuza. He would make a great aspect." "Thank you, but I don't think 4 would want it." There was a moment of silence. Before he shook his head. The atmosphere was tense, and Midoriya was contemplating going alien and getting the hell out of there. As they stood up, Chisaki handed him a card. "What a shame. If you change your mind, contact us." Thanks." As they left, leaving a terrified Midoriya breathing heavily. He looked at the prize money before running out. Uraraka had a terrible week. First, her money and phone were stolen. "Mom and Dad do so much for me. I can't ask them for any more. I still have money enough for the next 2 weeks, but..." "Hey!" She turned around to see the boy who was an accomplice to the guy who had stolen her money. Her scowl grew, having a distaste for the boy. "What do you want?" she said with so much venom in the girl's voice the boy visibly flinched. "Came to steal more money. Well, I don't have any more. So go away. Leave me alone." "I hear. I'm sorry for everything I fixed." He bowed with a brown envelope to the girl's confusion. The girl too, the envelope opened and was shocked, to say the least. Money 1,502,250. 00 Japanese yen. As an apology, one Uraraka looked as if her brain froze, All Might, even though he had a blank expression on his face. They both stared at the boy, All Might from afar. "How much?" they said in unison. "I'm sorry for what I did to you. I earned the money, so don't worry about it being stolen." "So much money? Wait. I see, can't take this. Are you insane?" But you have to." "Okay, you are insane. I'm not taking it this much. As much I want to." She said the last part under her breath. "Pay me back what you owe me, not this. This way is over the top." How the hell did you even end up with this? I ended up winning a tournament, 1-0. So this is the prize money. Midoriya nodded. I probably caused you so much grief about stealing, so think if this is my apologies. Oh, and before I forget your phone. My phone. He pulled out a smartphone that had the same color scheme as her old flip phone. Tch, that isn't my phone. Actually, it is after I melted it - you melted my phone. Yeah, but now it's better I repaired it. She took the device, opening the device, and the screen was easy to use. She looked at the boy as she saw his light bruises and bandages on his cheeks and tired expression. She didn't have proof, but he probably felt guilty about what had happened and did everything to make it up to me. She continued staring at him. There was an awkward silence before she spoke. I'm not taking all this money. It would feel wrong. I can see you're really sorry. So I'll take the money you owe me. Take double, that's the least you can do. Hey, do you want to exchange numbers? I can see you're a good guy. Maybe we could be, I don't know. Be friends. Before giving a nod, though I rather spend time with you than your other friends, especially if they're like the other guy. Actually, he was my only friend, and you don't have to worry about him. We're not talking anymore. I don't exactly have many friends anymore, actually no friends. He said with a sad tone. The girl wanted to reach out to the boy. Well, since we're friends, we should know each other a little more. Here. You just paid me back and fixed my phone. At least I could get to know a little better. They began walking together. Midoriya was a little nervous as the sun began to come up. Oh okay what do you want to know? I'm Okako Uraraka. Yours? Izuku and Midoriya. Favorite color? Mine's pink. G green. 3 really green. Is it because you're all green? Hey, I'm not green. Green hair, green eyes, green watch, your name means green. Midoriya blushed at the girl's amusement. I guess that's a factor. What about you, who's your favorite hero? 13. She's my all-time favorite. I wanna be like her. She began ranting about 13, which brought a smile to his face as then he felt a chill go down his spine. Midoriya. He turned to see an angry orange-haired girl with a murderous aura around him. 𝐒𝐻𝐵. What's up? Her fist enlarged as Uraraka watched in horror as she walked up to him with a few comedic blows to his head. Are you crazy? Actually, don't answer that. Because I know you're insane. What were you thinking fighting in an underground tournament? Plus Midoriya, whose soul was leaving his body but was saved by Uraraka, who put his soul back in his body. So I guess you watched the fight. Of course, I did. When they said 4 Arms was fighting, I knew it was you. I was worried my friend would die. Wait, we're friends? Here. What kinda stupid question is that? Of course we're friends. Midoriya began to burst into tears. As Midoriya was berated by Kendo, who acted like her big sister, who acted like her little brother and did something stupid. Which brought Uraraka to some laughter. 2 months after Izuku found the Omnitrix, a lot had changed. In just a few weeks, life at school had gotten significantly better. At least now people didn't actively try to put him down. He still wouldn't call them friends, but he had formed real friendships with Uraraka and Kendo. They often hung out during their free time, genuinely enjoying each other's company. Currently, Izuku was training with All Might at the beach. All Might, I know training is important, but do you mind if I take tomorrow off? Izuku asked, gripping 2 ropes tied firmly around a fridge as he dragged it along. All Might, casually sitting on top of the fridge, glanced up from a newspaper. What's brought this on? All Might asked, watching Izuku struggle as sweat dripped from his forehead onto the sand below. Izuku looked uncomfortable, though not because of the physical strain. Tomorrow's my mom's anniversary. The day she met my dad. His voice was tight, not just from exertion. His face contorted slightly with the effort of pulling, muscles screaming in protest. All Might raised an eyebrow in surprise. Midoriya never talks about his father. He thought. I see. I know bringing up a lost loved one isn't easy. Izuku tightened his grip on the ropes and gave a heavy pull, his breath elbowed. I won't be gone long, just the day. I bought 2 tickets with some money I had saved up. I thought it'd be nice for my mom. All Might smiled warmly. Wait. Tickets to shag carpeting. 2 Izuku, still pulling, glanced up in surprise. Whoa, you know them, All Might. Mom loves their music. All Might laughed. Oh, do I? My friend got me into their music way back in the day. We had a blast rocking out with the band once, though we were so wasted that we barely remember it. Dave always teased me about not being able to handle my liquor. Izuku's eyes widened. Wait, David Shield. Man, I'd love to meet him. And who was your other friend? At this, All Might's expression darkened slightly, his smile bittersweet. He was the greatest man I ever knew. Izuku, noticing the change in tone, hesitated. Wait. Did he? All Might nodded solemnly. Yeah. He passed away. He saved me more times than I can count. Izuku felt a pang of guilt. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't be, All Might said softly. But wait, I thought the band retired. They did, but they're having one last show on Saturday. Mom and I are going together. All Might gave him an approving nod. Sounds like a great plan. I don't see any problem with it. You should have some fun with your mom. Izuku beamed. Thanks, All Might. Now, just because you get tomorrow off doesn't mean you get to slack today. All Might's tone shifted back to his usual, boisterous self. Young Midoriya, go go go. With a renewed burst of energy, Izuku gritted his teeth and pulled even harder, dragging the fridge, and All Might, across the sand, sweat pouring from his face as he pushed his body to its limits. By the afternoon, Midoriya was ready for his daily sparring session. After his training, he would usually spar with Kendo to measure his progress. Today was no different. Stepping onto the center of the mat, Midoriya and Kendo bowed to each other, taking their stances. You sure you want to get your butt kicked, guy? Kendo started, but before she could finish, Midoriya swiftly kicked her in the chest, sending her back a few inches. She chuckled, a grin forming on her face. All right. Game on. Midoriya followed up with a flurry of punches and kicks, which Kendo skillfully blocked and dodged. Close the gap, he muttered to himself as he lunged at her. However, Kendo tripped him effortlessly. Izuku quickly rolled back onto his feet, launching another set of punches, but again Kendo blocked them with ease. You're telegraphing, she pointed out, right before landing a solid kick to his stomach, knocking him down. Don't let me see it coming. Not backing down, Midoriya tackled her to the ground, standing over her triumphantly. Didn't see that coming, did you? One Kendo responded with a smirk, swiftly kicking his legs out from under him and standing back up. Maybe, she teased, before offering him a hand to help him up. As Midoriya took her hand and stood, Kendo nodded approvingly. You're getting better. Who knows, maybe one day you'll actually surprise me, she said with a playful, condescending tone. Yeah, but my movements still feel sloppy, Midoriya admitted, his voice still full of enthusiasm. But I'll keep improving. Kendo smiled. He was one of the few guys who didn't mind losing to her regularly. No matter how many times she beat him, he always came back for another round, just as excited as the first day. You're too easy to read, though. I can see your movements a mile away, Kendo said, tossing him a bottle of water. You're not gonna win any fights like that. If villains can read your moves, you'll be done for. Izuku nodded, determined. I get it. But I'll make sure to get stronger. After changing out of their 𝐔𝐬𝐽𝐴, the two walked out of the dojo together. As they stepped outside, they spotted Uraraka waiting for them, waving cheerfully. Hey, guys. Wanna hang out? I'm free today, Okiko asked, joining them with a bright smile. Yeah, sounds fun, Kendo replied, already amused. As they started walking together, Okiko glanced at Izuku. So, I'm assuming she kicked your butt again, Izuku. Kendo snickered at that, nodding in agreement. Izuku's face flushed in embarrassment. I'm getting better. One of these days, I'm going to beat you, he said, trying to sound confident. I'll give you credit, you're a fast learner, Kendo teased with a grin, Or maybe I'm just that good of a teacher. Yeah, I'm going with that second one. She laughed, but there was genuine praise in her tone. But seriously, you are improving. Both girls exchanged a glance of admiration. Izuku was relentless in his training, constantly pushing himself. Even when he fell short, he never backed down, always getting back up to try again with that same determined look. Kendo smiled as they walked. Even though he's never beaten me, he doesn't give up, Kendo said with a hint of pride in her voice. Most guys would feel embarrassed or quit, but not him. He sees me as an equal, and when he fights, he doesn't hold back. That kind of drive makes you want to keep pushing yourself. Okiko nodded enthusiastically. You know what, Izuku? That attitude makes me want to go the extra mile too. I'm going to train so hard for the entrance exam. Midoriya scratched his head sheepishly. Yeah. I really hope we all make it. I know you two are gonna ace it. I should be the one worrying. Both girls stopped and turned to him, sensing his lack of confidence. Okiko threw a fist in the air. No way, Izuku. You've totally got this. Yeah, Kendo agreed firmly. Your quirk is ridiculously strong, and your mind for strategy. Honestly, it's a scary combination. You should have more confidence in yourself. We both know how strong you are. The only person who doesn't see it is you. Exactly. Okiko chimed in. Kendo even showed me some of your fights. You were amazing. You're totally going to crush the entrance exam. Izuku's face turned red from all the praise. Thanks, really. He cleared his throat. Oh, before I forget. I won't be around this Saturday. Here. Why not? Kendo raised a brow. I was kinda hoping to spar with 4 arms. I mean, I can beat you as yourself, but when you go alien, I can barely land a hit. Okiko blinked in surprise. Wait, you guys train with his aliens? They both nodded, making her eyes widen with excitement. Do you mind if I join you? Kendo shrugged, looking to Izuku. What do you think? Yeah, sure. The more, the merrier. Izuku started to grin, his brain already buzzing with ideas. Actually, I've been thinking about how to help improve your quirks. With Diamond Head, I can increase the weight of the crystals for Okiko to practice with, and 4 arms could help Kendo train against bigger opponents. Oh, and I could also use Fast Track to help improve your speed and reaction time. Plus, if Izuku trailed off into his usual muttering spree, his mind racing with plans and strategies. Kendo and Okiko exchanged amused glances. How does he do that without needing to breathe? Okiko asked, bewildered. 2 years of practice, Kendo said with a smirk before lightly chopping him on the head to snap him out of it. You said something about being out of town this Saturday. Oh, right. Izuku blinked, coming out of his muttering. Yeah, me and Mom are going to a concert. It's a special one she's really excited about. She and my dad used to go all the time. That's cool, Okiko said, smiling. Though, it's gonna 𝐴𝐶K not having you around for training. Sorry about that, Izuku said apologetically. Kendo waved it off. No worries. You deserve some fun. We'll pick up where we left off when you get back. The 3 continued walking together, chatting and laughing, enjoying the afternoon. Izuku and his mother, 𝗏𝐼, stepped off the bus and made their way into the lively atmosphere of the music festival. 𝗏𝐼's eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked around, her face glowing with joy. Izuku couldn't help but smile seeing his mother so happy. He hadn't seen her like this in a long time. Thank you, Izuku, 𝗏𝐼 said softly, her voice full of gratitude. This is the place where I met your father. We fell in love here. She paused, wiping away the tears that started to well up in her eyes. Ooh, look at me, crying already. I'm probably going to cry like a baby all day. This place just brings back so many memories. She laughed lightly, her voice thick with emotion. But you, sweetie, you go have fun, okay? And while you're at it, find yourself a girlfriend, here. I've always wanted grandkids. She added with a playful wink. Mom. Izuku groaned, his face turning crimson. 𝗏𝐼 giggled and gave him a little push, then wandered off into the crowd, leaving Izuku to enjoy the festival on his own. Shaking his head with embarrassment but smiling at the same time, he decided to explore a bit. After a while, he stopped at a churro stand, the smell too tempting to resist. "Hey, I'll pay for the kid," came a familiar voice from behind. Izuku turned around, his eyes widening. 𝐒𝐻𝐼𝐵. But before he could shout any louder, the man in front of him, wearing oversized hippie clothes, sunglasses, and a shirt that hung loosely on his skinny frame, quickly clapped a hand over Izuku's mouth. "Sure. Not so loud, young Midoriya," All Might whispered, grinning sheepishly as the churro vendor raised an eyebrow at them. After paying, they walked off, churros in hand. "So, what are you doing here, All Might?" Izuku asked once they were out of earshot. "In this form, it's Toshinori-sensei," All Might corrected, glancing around as if to check for eavesdroppers. "We don't want someone with a hearing quirk catching on to us. And as for why I'm here, well, isn't it obvious? I'm a huge fan of shag carpeting, and this is their final show. Of course, I had to come. Hey, that's kind of cool, actually. I guess I shouldn't be surprised." Izuku smiled, feeling a little more relaxed around his mentor. But before he could say anything more, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning around, Izuku's heart skipped a beat. "Echachai," he stammered, suddenly face to face with a familiar girl. It was Kyuka, her usual laid-back expression on her face. "Hey," she said casually, folding her arms. "You're the guy who helped me out a few months ago, right? Saved me from those idiots messing with me." "Why?" Izuku replied, scratching the back of his neck nervously. "I just saw you needed help, so. Yeah. No need to thank me, really." "Well, I didn't get to properly thank you before," 𝗔𝗫 said, her eyes glancing off to the side where her parents were. Her mom, with similar earphone jacks, was chatting animatedly, while her dad, a blonde man, was screaming his lungs out in excitement. "And, honestly, this gives me an excuse to get away from them for a bit." She smirked, jerking her thumb in their direction. Izuku blinked, unsure what to say, but before he could respond, he caught sight of Toshinori giving him an enthusiastic double thumbs up as he discreetly walked away, leaving Izuku alone with 𝗔𝗫. "Wanna? I guess it's okay with him," Izuku mumbled, feeling the pressure mounting. He quickly extended a hand. "I'm Izuku Midoriya, by the way." "Kyuka 𝗔𝗫," she replied, shaking his hand with a smile. As they continued walking, Izuku's attention was drawn to the leather jacket 𝗔𝗫 was wearing, with deep dope emblazoned across the back and various stickers covering the shoulders. As they continued walking, Izuku's attention was drawn to the leather jacket 𝗔𝗫 was wearing, with deep dope emblazoned across the back and various stickers covering the shoulders. "Deep dope?" Izuku asked curiously. "I've never heard of them before." 𝗔𝗫 looked a little embarrassed, instinctively, trying to cover the stickers. "They're kinda niche," she admitted, her voice a bit shy. "You know, one of those bands with a small but really dedicated fanbase. I heard they are playing here today, actually. They were inspired by shag carpeting, even though their music is totally different, like oil and water." "Heh, that's cool. Maybe I'll check out their songs when I get a chance," Izuku said, genuinely interested. 𝗔𝗫, however, waved her earphone jack dismissively. "No, you don't have to. It's fine." Izuku's attention was immediately caught by the movement of her earlobes. His inner fanboy instincts kicked in, and before he could stop himself, the words spilled out. "What's your quirk?" 𝗔𝗫 blinked, surprised by the sudden question. "What? Your Q quirk?" Izuku stammered, clearly nervous. "I'm kind of a hero nerd, and I'm really interested in quirks and why yours looks really cool." 𝗔𝗫's cheeks flushed slightly, turning a soft pink. Thanks. No one usually compliments my quirk." "Really? That's a shame, it looks amazing," Izuku said earnestly. 𝗔𝗫 avoided direct eye contact, twirling one of her earphone jacks around her finger. "Thanks, but it's not that great. I can channel my heartbeat through them to create vibrations and sound waves. Wait, where did that notebook come from?" She looked on in disbelief as Izuku pulled out a notebook from seemingly nowhere and began scribbling notes at lightning speed. "Don't mind me, keep going," he said, completely absorbed in writing. 𝗔𝗫 hesitated but continued. Okay. My hearing's also super sharp. I can hear things from really far away. Wow, that's incredible. But, does that ever hurt? Izuku asked, looking up from his notes. When I'm Spider-Monkey, loud noises can get really overwhelming. Spider-Monkey. 𝗔𝗫 repeated, raising an eyebrow. Izuku sheepishly pulled out another notebook, this one labeled Alien Hero Transformations. Oh, it's one of my forms. 𝗔𝗫's eyes widened as she skimmed the sketches and descriptions. Wait, you can turn into these guys. No way. Izuku nodded eagerly. Why yeah. I can prove it if you want. 𝗔𝗫 crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. Alright, prove it. I'm having a hard time believing you could actually have this many forms. Without hesitation, Izuku activated the Omnitrix, the green light flashing as he pressed the button on his wrist. Unbeknownst to him, the Omnitrix sent out a signal, alerting others of its activation. In an instant, a bright burst of light enveloped him. As it faded, 𝗔𝗫 stared in awe, her jaw practically hitting the floor. Prove enough. Prove enough. 3. As Diamond Head stood in awe of his transformation, Kyuka's eyes widened. Whoa, dude, that's awesome, she managed to say, her voice filled with amazement. But before the moment could last, the air around them shifted. Without warning, the clouds above parted as something came hurtling down from the sky, moving at an unimaginable speed. The object tore through the air like a meteor, heading straight for them. Diamond Head's eyes narrowed, the sharp emerald glow of his form reflecting off the incoming projectile. As it collided with the ground, the impact shook the area, sending a devastating shockwave that kicked up a storm of dust and debris, threatening the surrounding bystanders. Reacting instantly, Diamond Head slammed his hands into the ground, summoning crystalline barriers from the earth itself, shielding the people nearby from the shockwave. His mind raced, instincts on high alert as the dust cloud thickened. You okay, Green? Kyuka asked, shouting over the chaos. Yeah, wait, Green. Diamond Head blinked, momentarily thrown by the nickname, but there was no time for explanations. For as the dust began to settle, 2 glowing red eyes pierced through the thick veil of debris. A mechanical whir echoed ominously, and the shape of a hulking mantis-like robot emerged from the smoke, its frame towering above them. The machine's cold, insectoid body shifted with metallic precision, its sharp limbs clicking as it moved. It locked onto Diamond Head. Its gaze unyielding as its weaponized arm began to charge with an eerie red glow, preparing to unleash an attack. Diamond Head braced for impact, instinctively preparing to counter, but before he could react, a deafening roar cut through the air. Smash! A massive shockwave followed the punch, obliterating the mantis robot in an instant. The sheer force sent debris flying in all directions, and when the dust finally cleared, there stood All Might, his fist still extended from the devastating blow, pieces of the destroyed machine raining around him. Diamond Head stared at the hero, admiration and surprise filling his gaze. All Might, his deep, crystalline voice echoed, stepping closer to the wreckage. I've never seen anything like this before. All Might's expression tightened for a brief moment, recognizing the machine with a hint of concern flashing in his eyes. But his signature smile quickly returned as he turned toward the gathered crowd. He couldn't let them see his worry, not now. Everything's fine, young Midoriya, he announced with that trademark booming confidence. Everyone, get back to having fun. He flashed a thumbs up, keeping the civilians at ease as his mind raced with thoughts of what this attack meant. 𝗔𝗫 grabbed Diamond Head's hand, snapping him back to reality. Come on, we should probably get out of here before more of those things show up. Okay. Diamond Head said, touching the Omnitrix module in a flash, returning to his normal self as 𝗔𝗫 pulled him along as they disappeared into the crowd. All Might's smile wavered for a split second. His sharp eyes scanned the wreckage one last time. Unnoticed by anyone, a small drone, damaged but still operational, crawled away from the destroyed mantis, its movements quiet as it retreated into the shadows. So, all these guys are you? Dude, that's awesome. 𝗔𝗫 exclaimed, flipping through Midoriya's notebook filled with sketches of his many alien transformations. Yeah, He chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his neck. Hopefully, it'll be enough to get into UA. 𝗔𝗂 paused, her excitement waning slightly. Wait. You're applying for UA? 𝗬𝗏, he replied, voice filled with both determination and anxiety. It's a long shot, but it's always been my dream to become a hero. I'm going to do my best. 𝗔𝗂's gaze lowered, her thoughts clouded with uncertainty. She had been avoiding a serious conversation with her parents about her own dreams of becoming a hero. Music was her passion, but deep down, she couldn't shake the longing to be a hero too. Yet, she feared disappointing them. What about you, 𝗔𝗂? Midoriya asked, pulling her from her thoughts. 𝗬𝗏, are you going to apply for the hero course? What gave you that idea? Well, when we met, those guys said something about you protecting a quirkless kid. Your quirk is amazing, definitely pro material. I just figured you wanted to be a hero. 𝗔𝗂 sighed, crossing her arms. Look, I just don't like bullies. The guy needed help, so I helped him out. Though that did paint a huge target on my back. Midoriya's expression softened, his voice laced with empathy. 𝗧𝗏, I know how that happens. There was a brief flicker of sadness in his tone, but he quickly recovered, a hopeful smile reappearing. But you'd make a great hero. 𝗔𝗂 looked away, her voice quieter now. Yeah, bringing hope to people, making them smile. That's just a dream for me. That's not true. Midoriya's sudden intensity startled her. He leaned in, his eyes burning with passion. You have the heart and the quirk to be a hero. His words struck a chord as he continued, stepping even closer. The fact that you protected someone just because it was the right thing to do. That already makes you a hero in my book. 𝗔𝗂 blinked, caught off guard by his sincerity and how close he had gotten. Her face flushed lightly. For a brief moment, she felt her resolve wavering, almost convinced by his fiery declaration. Then, she burst into laughter, breaking the tension. Haha. Dude, you don't even know me. And you think I can be a hero? Midoriya just shrugged with a smile. I know it. 𝗔𝗂 shook her head, still chuckling as they continued walking, the conversation flowing naturally between them. Neither noticed the small drone in the distance, dragging itself across the ground. Its red eyes flickered as it scanned the area, locking onto its next target, a nearby weatherman standing with a robotic assistant. Its legs clicked as it crawled toward the tech, preparing to take control. Oh, by the way, you mentioned that 𝗵𝗏 will be playing, right? Izuku asked, gesturing toward the band he spotted in the distance. 𝗔𝗂 suddenly panicked, her fingers fidgeting nervously with the jacks hanging from her ears. Oh, 𝗵𝗏. Don't worry about them. You probably wouldn't like their music. She muttered, pressing the ends of her jacks together anxiously. Izuku smiled. If they're playing, maybe I could hear them perform. 𝗔𝗂 paled, waving her arms frantically. No, no, no. It's not something you'd like. Come on, let's do something else. You don't know that. I might actually enjoy it. Izuku insisted, checking the schedule. Looks like they're playing in a few minutes. Let's go check it out. 𝗔𝗂 reluctantly gave in, bracing herself for the worst, fully prepared for Midoriya's mockery or any insults that might follow. They both stood in the audience, 𝗔𝗂 visibly tense. But as the band began playing, all her nervous energy melted away. The song they played was called Heroes Are Dope. The music immediately resonated with Izuku. The lyrics were unlike anything he'd heard before, but despite that, he found himself tapping his foot to the beat. Wow, this is really good. I'm surprised. He glanced at 𝗔𝗂, who was headbanging and rocking out along with the crowd, her whole body consumed by the rhythm. Izuku couldn't help but smile, caught up in her passion for the music. As the song ended, Midoriya was still swept up in 𝗔𝗂's excitement. Oh man, that was amazing. It's way better hearing them live than on my phone. Some things just can't beat a concert. 𝗔𝗂 smirked, nodding. Yeah, hearing them live is on a whole different level. Midoriya grinned. They're so good. I kinda want to hear more. 𝗔𝗂's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, you actually liked them? He nodded, about to ask for more recommendations when a sudden scream erupted from the audience. "Ah! A villain! What the devil is that?" shouted one of Deep Dope's band members, the lead singer clutching the microphone in disbelief. Suddenly, a massive water monster materialized, its glowing red eyes scanning the terrified crowd. The creature loomed above them, tendrils of water swirling ominously as it prepared to strike. 5. All Might, in his skinny form, had run into Izuku Midoriya and they began discussing Izuku's progress. "My sweet boy can be quite the handful. I actually wanted to thank you," Izuku said with a grateful tone. "Thank me? No, there's no reason to thank me," All Might replied, shaking his head. "No, I have to. I've noticed something. My son has been smiling in a way he never has before. He's always so excited to go off and train, and I had no idea why. But something tells me it has something to do with you. He's always trying to make everyone around him happy, not wanting to upset anyone. But I think you're the first person in a long time who makes him truly happy." All Might smiled warmly and nodded. "I think he's done just as much for me as I have for him. I truly believe he will become the greatest hero." Izuku looked at him thoughtfully before offering a soft smile. "You're the first person to believe in him like that. In a long time." "Surely his father would have believed in him too," All Might responded, a bit surprised. Izuku's smile widened with a hint of nostalgia. "I don't think Izuku remembers much from when we found out he was quirkless. I remember that day clearly, though. He was crying in my arms, devastated. And then, that man, his father, flew across the country. He came home, put a hand on our boy's shoulder, and told him he could be a hero even without a quirk. He said he'd be the first and greatest quirkless hero." Izuku giggled softly at the memory. "But I think when his father passed away, Izuku tried to suppress those memories. He never talks about him. At least not to me." All Might frowned slightly, realizing that Izuku had never really mentioned his father. He recalled only one brief mention, and that was when Izuku had been talking about the concert. Before All Might could dwell on it further, their conversation was interrupted by distant screams coming from the nearby concert. "What's that?" Izuku asked, her eyes widening as she noticed a massive water monster in the distance. All Might quickly tried to keep his composure. "Sorry, Mrs. Midoriya, but I think I need to go to the bathroom. I must have eaten something that didn't agree with me." He rushed off before she could respond. Finding a hidden spot, he ripped open his shirt, revealing his hero costume underneath, Superman style. Like young Midoriya would say, "It's hero time." 3. With that, he powered up into his buff form and launched himself toward the water monster. Back with Midoriya, Izuku and 𝗔𝗓 barely dodged as a massive water tentacle slammed down between them, sending shockwaves through the ground. The once-packed concert arena was now filled with panicked screams as the crowd scattered in every direction, trying to escape the chaos. Midoriya tumbled across the stage, rolling with 𝗔𝗓 in his arms. Her face flushed briefly, but there was no time to react as another tentacle lashed toward them, forcing them to break apart and scramble in different directions. Out of the corner of his eye, Midoriya caught sight of All Might, rocketing through the air like a bullet. With incredible speed, All Might slammed into the towering water monster. But the creature, a giant made entirely of water and standing taller than the concert arena itself, barely reacted. All Might shot right through its body, emerging on the other side as the monster reformed effortlessly. "That thing's way too big," Izuku muttered, his mind racing. "It's not like the slime villain where All Might could just punch it. He can't land a hit on this thing. And, wait." He noticed the thin cloud of steam rising from where All Might had passed through. Steam. An idea sparked in Izuku's mind. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward All Might, who was gearing up for another attack. "All Might!" Izuku shouted, voice straining to be heard over the panicked cries and the sound of water crashing all around them. "I have an idea." All Might paused, turning to face his protégé. "Young Midoriya, you should be getting to safety. Listen to me. If you keep pushing your time limit like this, you won't be able to fight much longer. Let me handle it. I know how to stop it." Izuku's voice was filled with determination, eyes locked on the giant water monster. All Might hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "What's your plan?" "We need to turn the water into steam," Izuku explained quickly. "I can generate enough heat as heat blast to evaporate it." All Might's eyes widened in realization, a proud smile tugging at his lips. "Problem is I don't want to turn who's ever controlling it into steam. If I do I'll..." Izuku trailed off. "Young Midoriya, you haven't noticed?" All Might asked. He then pointed inside the robot. "Nobody's inside, I've already made sure everyone's out of the water behemoth." "Alright, but how will I..." Izuku started before the pro cut him off. "Go supernova. Go supernova hot wireless heat blast," All Might said. "Supernova, can I even go that hot?" Izuku asked. "I know you can. Remember, velocity equals intensity. The faster you spin the hotter you will be, young Midoriya," All Might said. All Might glanced at the core, then back at Izuku. "I see. Go, young Midoriya. Show them what a true hero can do." Izuku nodded, feeling the weight of the moment as he ran toward the massive water creature. The Omnitrix on his wrist glowed as he rapidly cycled through forms, landing on Heat Blast. With a decisive motion, he slammed down the dial, engulfing himself in a bright green flash. When the light faded, Heat Blast stood in Izuku's place, his entire body radiating emerald flames. Without wasting a second, he shot into the air, leaving a fiery trail behind him as he flew toward the towering monster. The audience, still panicked but mesmerized by the sight, watched in awe as Heat Blast circled around the creature, flames flaring hotter and brighter with each passing second. Izuku could feel the intense heat building inside him as he spun faster and faster, forming a fiery tornado around the giant water monster. The flames wrapped tightly around the creature, trapping it within the swirling vortex of green fire. The water monster tried to lash out, its enormous tentacles slamming into the walls of fire, but the heat was relentless. Steam began to rise, thick clouds of vapor billowing into the air as more and more of the water was evaporated. From the stage below, Dshiru stared up in awe. "Green flames? That's Midoriya's Heat Blast." The monster continued to shrink as the flames grew hotter. The once massive figure of water was now a boiling mass of steam, trapped within the vortex. Izuku pushed his powers to the limit, spinning even faster, the flames around him reaching their peak intensity. With a final burst of heat, the water monster was completely evaporated, steam filled the air, obscuring the vision of everyone. Breathing heavily, Heat Blast descended, landing back on the concert stage, his body still radiating heat. Steam billowed through the entire area, making it hard to see as Izuku caught his breath. The battle was over, but the intense heat and energy he had used left him drained. "Young Midoriya, are you okay?" All Might's concerned voice echoed through the steam. Izuku wiped sweat from his brow, still catching his breath. "Why yeah. Just. Never went that hot before." The Omnitrix blinked green, signaling its cooldown, before reverting Izuku back to his normal form in a flash of emerald light. First a giant robot, now a water monster. Izuku muttered, trying to make sense of everything. "What's up with today, Midoriya?" Dshiru's voice pierced through the dense steam, her footsteps rushing toward him. All Might grinned, gesturing toward the remains of the weather machine. "I'll make sure this thing is properly dealt with before it causes any more chaos. As for you, young Midoriya, go enjoy yourself. Maybe hang out with your girlfriend. Though I'd bet my money on Uraraka or Kendo." Midoriya's face turned beet red. "She's not my G-girlfriend." All Might laughed heartily, patting him on the back. "Not yet. Bwahahaha." He then dashed off, leaving Izuku standing flustered in the cloud of steam. As the mist began to clear, Dshiru finally found him. "Dude, are you nuts?" she blurted out, immediately questioning his actions. Izuku sighed, shaking his head slightly. "You're not the first person to ask me that." Dshiru smirked, folding her arms. "Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You know All Might had it under control, right?" I know." Midoriya stammered, rubbing the back of his neck, his cheeks still a little pink. I wanted to help him. He's my hero after all. Dshiru raised an eyebrow, a playful smile on her lips. So, you're an All Might fanboy, here. Izuku nodded, his face still burning. Why yeah. He's been my idol since I was little. As they continued to talk, their voices fading into the mist, a shadowy figure watched from a distance. The same weatherman from earlier crept forward, retrieving the robot's head that was now fused with strange technology, much like the robot they had faced earlier. What happened to you? The weatherman murmured to the head, puzzled by its altered state. He glanced around nervously before quickly snatching the remains and disappearing into the shadows with the stolen machine, slipping away before anyone could notice. A few hours later, young man, what are your intentions with my daughter? Q-Taku's voice boomed, his terrifying tone making Midoriya freeze in place. Midoriya was completely terrified, eyes wide with panic, as Mika slapped her husband's arm. Stop it, don't chase away Kyuka's new boyfriend, Mika chuckled, trying to diffuse the tension. Midoriya, on the verge of passing out from embarrassment, could only manage a stammer. This made both Inko and All Might burst into laughter, while Kyuka herself tried to hide the deep blush spreading across her cheeks. The concert for shag carpeting was in full swing, the crowd moving like wild, dancing lunatics. But both Dshiru and Midoriya were still heavily embarrassed, trying to blend in and shake off the awkward encounter. Right on. Isn't this just the grooviest? Q-Taku cheered, oblivious to his daughter's growing embarrassment. Dshiru groaned, mortified. Grooviest? Dad, you seriously need to pick up some new material. The lights dimmed as the excitement in the crowd surged. The band began to play the song Dshiru had been waiting for. Her eyes lit up. Izuku, it's the opening to Twister Alley. Midoriya, still trying to recover from the awkward exchange, blinked in surprise. But just as the song began, the weather abruptly shifted. Dark clouds rolled in, and heavy rain fell in torrents, accompanied by a powerful gust of wind. Does it always feel like a real tornado is blowing through when they play this song? Midoriya asked, his voice rising in concern. The winds picked up speed, twisting violently as the crowd turned to see the source. A vortex formed at the center of the storm, spinning with a terrifying force. The air crackled with energy, and as the storm cleared, a massive weather monster emerged, a towering figure made of dark swirling clouds, with glowing red eyes that locked directly onto Midoriya. The monster's form was a terrifying amalgamation of storm elements. Its body rippled like a tornado, arms crackling with lightning, and its voice boomed like thunder. Izuku, we need to run. Dshiru yelled, her voice trembling. Kyuka, let's go. Midoriya shouted back, grabbing her hand as the crowd scattered in panic. Kyuka's parents, watching in horror, exchanged anxious glances. This place has some seriously weird weather.